we're going to get started. We're going to do our celebrations first, and then we're going to do our public comment. So that's the only thing that's different tonight. With that, it is March 11th, 2025. I call this regular meeting of the PCSSD School Board to order. Ms. Smith, would you please call the roll?
Ward. Tate. Here. Smith. Potter. Here. Maynard. Here. Keller. Present. Delaney.
Present. Okay. Would you please join me in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Our first item on our agenda are our celebrations and recognitions. The first one of those is our student board member, which Dr. Whitfield will be introducing.
Good afternoon, board members. Tonight we have Tyson Thompson with us. He's a student next door at Mills University Studies High School. He is a senior, a guard on the basketball team. So we hope that Tyson will be bringing us home a victory from Hot Springs Friday. He is a member of Junior ROTC. He's a member of Student Council. He will be attending UAPB and ultimately pursuing a career in the medical field. So Tyson, welcome.
Okay, Tyson, welcome. Glad to see you here. You're our student board rep this month. That means you can participate in anything you feel like and talk whenever you want. You don't have to wait to be recognized. The only thing you can't do is vote. We usually catch that, but I wouldn't fault you for trying. But welcome, and feel free to participate as much as you like. Okay? All right. Our next item on the celebrations is our third quarter Inspiration in Education Award with Ms. Duff.
I'm not used to being so early on in the agenda. Usually I have time to do a few other things. Okay, so good evening, board, Dr. Guests, and all of our guests here today. For those, since we do have quite a few guests in the audience, I'll refresh everyone's memory on the Inspiration in Education. This is a quarterly award that is given to an educator in our district. It can be anyone that works in our education field. So it could be a janitor, it could be a teacher, it could be a principal. We've had pretty much the whole gamut receive this award over the years. And these nominations come in not only from their fellow colleagues, but from students, as well as those in the public. This particular quarter, we had nearly 60 nominations, and there were several repeat nominations. This is the first time that we've had more than a dozen for multiple individuals. So it was a tight race. This particular individual did receive about 25 different nominations, and almost every single one of them was were from students. So I'm going to read just a few of those nominations and do my best to not reveal who it is as I read them. This person has been inspirational to me because this person helps me understand the fill-in-the-blank subject this person teaches. This person is very patient with all of its students and is an overall fun teacher. This person has shown leadership in teaching. This person is very understanding and gets to know his or her students in a way where we can learn and have fun at the same time. This person has taught me in a way that I've never been taught before. This person has helped me improve my fill-in-the-blank subject grade overall. This person is very inspirational and cool. This person passes on the passion of fill-in-the-blank subject onto us in a way that we can understand and remember. This person is an extreme inspiration to my learning. This person is very cool and understanding. This person continues to pass on passion for fill-in-the-blank subject to all of us in such an incredible way. And because it's difficult to continue reading all of these examples without giving it away, I would please like Mr. Clifton Lewis from Mills University Studies High School to come forward. Now, you were right here on the guise that you would have to do a presentation tonight to the board. You don't have to do that. Yes, so there is no presentation you have to give to the board, but I do give the board an opportunity to offer a few words of recognition for Mr. Lewis and his nominations tonight.
Board?
I appreciate all of you guys and the work that you do with our kids. I know my daughter's a teacher, and I know the struggle sometimes, and we just know that we appreciate you guys.
Yeah.
It's amazing to get 25 students to agree on anything.
Yeah.
Wonderful. We appreciate it.
Yeah. And the subject that I was not filling in the blank for was for science. So the number of times that you have inspired students to learn science is incredible. I know Dr. Luttrell, you make him proud over there too. So here is your award. Awesome. And then for photo purposes, you'll get the real thing on your next paycheck, but you do get a bonus, $250. Oh, it's upside down. There you go. That will be on your next paycheck. So I'm going to let I'll hold it, but Dr. Luttrell will get the photo. Awesome. All right, and then these are the nominations, so you can see the students who nominated you. Just ignore my scribbles where I crossed out your pronouns. I'll let you hold on to that for right now. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, congratulations and thank you for coming. Our next one is Dr. Whitfield with the OEP Data Growth Award.
So we received performance awards a couple of months back. So we recently received growth awards. Although we had several schools demonstrate high growth, we had one school that was recognized by the Office for Educational Policy. So I'm going to ask Ms. Ireland and your team to come and stand next to me. So, congratulations, Driven Virtual Academy has been recognized by the Office for Educational Policy at the University of Arkansas as a school where students demonstrated high growth on the Atlas. As you know, the OEP creates an annual report entitled the Outstanding Educational Performance Award, where we recognize schools with high academic growth. We think growth is the best indicator of the positive impact that your school is having on your students. So if there was still a Driven Academy, they would have been published in the High Growth for ELA for Central Region. So because we no longer have that LEA, they still get the recognition, but there's no LEA to tie that recognition to. So we wanted to make sure that they were recognized publicly for the hard work they did. And I come here and I stand all the time in front of you all the time about the importance of growth. Every student is expected to grow and can grow. And that's very, very important. And especially at this level, it gets a little more difficult because students may not be quite as excited to grow. So we appreciate your hard work and we'll allow you to address the board. And congratulations.
So I've prepared a slideshow that has about 8 slides, and I don't think we want to stand here and read it to you, but I do want to focus on the first slide that has been presented for you. I wanted you to look at the 3 years that we were in operation, and notice that our first year we had over 600 students. That was the first year that we returned from COVID, and so as vaccines became available and parents became more comfortable with sending their students back to the traditional setting, of course, our student enrollment dropped. But our demographics are there for you to see basically what we did with that. With our demographics, for example, the first one that shows our special education population, at our lowest point, we had 17%, and at our highest point, we had 32%. So that's the way to read that and look at that. And so I just wanted everybody to see our demographics and know that we worked with a very diverse group of students. very diverse. And we had struggling learners as well as those who excelled. So when you look at the growth, I wanted you all to be able to see the students that we were working with and know that they represent all of our schools and the work that we did. And so I can make those slides available to you to read at your leisure. I know you have so much leisure time these days. Somewhere between midnight and 5 a.m., you can stay up and look at that slide. Any questions?
Questions from the board?
Any questions for us?
No?
You look like you're...
Oh, congratulations. Oh. Okay, we had a late entry here. Representative Carolyn Brown is here with an award as well.
Thank you very much, Mr. Delaney. Wendy, could you step down here with me, please? Ms. Potter? On behalf of Representative David Ray and I would like to present you with this certificate of recognition, and I'm going to read it. Whereas Arkansas is blessed with an abundance of citizens whose life experiences provide a wealth of wisdom that serves to guide and influence our state on the road of continued progress, and whereas Ms. Wendy Potter is to be commended for her exceptional work as a member of the Pulaski County Special School District School Board, and whereas Ms. Potter is a strong advocate for students and staff, she responds quickly and effectively to requests for assistance from both parents and students. Her dedication to improving educational outcomes for every student shines every day as she listens and acts on the concerns of residents in northern Pulaski County. As a single mother of 3 boys, she makes sure to be actively engaged in her community. And now, therefore, Ms. Wendy Potter is recognized for her dedication and is to be commended for her positive influence on Pulaski County Special School District and the outstanding service she provides to the students. Thank you, Wendy.
Thank you, Representative.
Thank you. Thank you, Board.
That's it?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for coming. We're going to go into our public comments now. We've got 4 students signed up. I'm going to treat them individually unless they tell me differently. Monroe Clemens, come on down.
Hello, my name is Monroe Clemens. I hold the position of student governor for Cobble Station Elementary. I'm here today to discuss environmental concerns affecting the building of every school. It saddens me to know that the students of Cobble Station Elementary have to attend classes that are unsafe. Each year, our students leave for summer with promises returning to an improved building environment. For the past few years, this has not happened. In fact, the learning conditions are even worse. There are damages to the students, in which causes the classroom to flood when raining. Our teachers have to use valuable class time to prepare our classroom to keep us dry and safe. As governor, I have a responsibility to advocate for the student body who elected me. Our students are working hard. We are improving academically, and we understand that our students and teachers will have even better success if we have a safe environment. I am asking each and every one of you for support and resources to fulfill past due promises made to the students of Cobble Station Elementary.
Thank you so much. That was awesome. Our next speaker is Caroline Moore.
Hi, my name is Caroline. I am a 4th fourth grade student at College Station Elementary. Today I would like to talk to you about some issues that I feel are concerning and unsafe for students and staff at College Station Elementary. I also sent you a presentation to view. The first issue that I would like to discuss is water leaking in the classrooms when it rains. The rain coming through the roof causes ceiling tiles to fill with water and fall. I am also concerned that the water leaking in our classrooms could get on wires, electrical outlets, or other electronics and cause us to get electrocuted. There are currently 3 tiles missing from our literacy room. This is also concerning because 2 years ago we had leaking in our classrooms and they had to be closed due to mold. The second issue that is concerning and unsafe for students at College Station is having an open campus. Having an open campus is difficult during extreme temperatures and weather conditions. When it rains, we have areas on our campus that flood, especially at the bottom of our steps and ramp where students arrive and dismiss from. When this happens, either parents and staff carry students through the water or we walk through the water ourselves. Having an open campus also makes it hard for us to stay dry when we are traveling throughout our campus on a rainy day. During extremely cold days, it is hard for us to stay warm due to traveling across the campus. Sometimes the teachers come to us on extremely cold days, but our classroom doors lead outside. So every time they are open, it takes a while for the classrooms to warm back up. For example, one day during strong winds, the classroom door was open and the wind blew a tile out of the ceiling and it landed on my teacher's head. She wasn't injured, but it scared her. In conclusion, I am bringing these issues to your attention because I have been a student at College Station since pre-K, and I would hate to see environmental and building issues negatively impact a community of dedicated learners who have been working hard to improve our overall school progress. We have been learning and growing for the past several years, but how long can we continue to grow with these distractions going on around us? Thank you.
Thank you. Wow. Our next speaker is Kobe Seeley.
Good evening, board members. Pulaski County's Special School District. Thank you for giving me this time to discuss my conference regarding much-needed environments at our school. College Station Elementary. When it rains or the snow dries, our roof leaks in multiple areas, causing water to drip off paper, desks, floors. It makes it hard to focus when water is dripping into trash bins, making noise, and the floor is having to be mopped again and again. Last week, a tail fell and hit my teacher on her head before hitting the floor. Also, when we arrive school after or when it's raining, the front is covered with water, so our security officer has laid the boards for us to cross, and he gets his feet soaked, helping us across. Our campus is open, which allows the dogs to come on and be chased by our officer. Also, when our campus is open, have walked and been stopped after they have been seen by staff. We need more land, much needed upgrades for our school to continue to grow. Please stop waiting to make these changes. For our educational future is important to us, and I should be important to you all. Thank you for letting me talk at this board meeting. I hope my voice was heard.
Okay. Our next speaker, thank you, Kobe. Our next speaker is Paisley Knight.
Good evening. My name is Paisley Knight. I am also a fourth grade student at College Station Elementary. I am proud to say that myself and fellow teammates at College Station won the basketball championship for fourth grade league. Unfortunately, we do not have the appropriate space to practice. Several nights out of the week, we would travel to Mills Middle to use their equipment after they finished for the day. Because of this, we would not often return home until 8:30 p.m. or later. While I am thankful for our coaches and principals making sacrifices to stay late nights with us, but I can't help to wonder how much better our team could have been if we had the equipment we so desperately needed on our very own campus. For many kids, athletic is the bridge between start and finish. Some other concerns that I would like to point out is the bathroom plumbing issues. Like one day, me and my friends were going to the bathroom and my friend flushed the toilet and the sewer water out of the floor drain came out, and now because of this, I'm scared to use the bathroom, and I hold it to the end of the day. And now, oh my God, and that's not very healthy for my body. While I believe that College Station has some of the most motivating teachers, it is only so much motivation that one can give when students can see that our learning environment is far worse than any other school in the nearby areas, just like Daisy Bates, Landmark, Mills Middle, and Mills High. We deserve to learn in a safe environment that we can all feel proud of. We all are prepared to return to every school board meeting if we need it to order for our voices to be heard. We deserve a safe, dry, and warm building because that's what the school district has promised us. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Paisley. Our next speaker is Brittany Walker.
Hello, Board. I'm a community member of College Station. I'm also a parent of students that attend College Station Elementary. I really don't have anything to say. The children have basically displayed and spoke about the conditions of the school. So to me, that just proves it's not warm, it's not safe, it's not dry. It doesn't meet those requirements. I don't know who the source of that information is, but it's not accurate. We have been made promises for a new school equipped so we can have a better conducive learning environment. We have yet to see that. We would just like consistent communication on what's going on with that plan. When it first was presented, and that's why we're so invested, when we were first presented with this by Mr. Johnson, we were under the impression we had the green light for this school. Like, that was the perception. That's how it was presented. The meeting was held at the school. Not only at the school, it was brought to Progressive League, which is kind of like our homeowner association of the community. So now we're at a stall. We understand funds may have ran out, funds may have been dispersed to other obligations, but we just want to make sure you all understand this is not something we're taking light. It's getting to the point, it's impacting our children's learning environment, which that does reflect on test scores, the different tests that they take, and also, ultimately, their report cards. The teachers can only do so much. And my question is, too, if a towel fell out and hit a teacher, what if that happened to a student? Who's going to be liable for that? Who's going to be responsible for that? So we have to kind of be proactive versus reactive before something major happens to a child, where the board will have to ultimately, and the administration, have to come together to make a decision. So we would like for this to remain top priority, that we definitely need a retrofit or a rehab of a school, or better yet, just a new school. Another thing that concerned me, and this is just my personal experience, we had a meeting where we went over test data. Parents were in the cafeteria. We're not even equipped to have a large board to present data. That data was presented on a 50-inch TV. Can you imagine how that was to view that data and understand what was going on? I could not see it myself. I had to move up closer. So we do not have the space for adequate learning. We definitely do not have the resources to even hold or present meetings. And I noticed when the teachers have their meetings, they're in classrooms. We don't have the space. So if this school can remain top priority to be retrofit or rehab, it will be greatly appreciative by the community, the student body, the parents, and just the students overall. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Brittany. That's our set there for College Station. Our next speaker is Brock Thompson.
Good evening, Brock Thompson. Two things I wanted to talk about briefly in my 3 minutes is, as a member of the community, I mean, how do you follow what preciousness and to the point information? I'll take part of my 3 minutes and give them there. So the two things is, number one, that's very impressive, and I'm not going to talk about something that I don't know about, but I know that if you've got parents and you got a presentation like that, that's incredibly impressive, each and every one of you want to do something about it. So I'm not going to Monday morning quarterback. I know you probably are all engaged and want to do something about it. So I look forward to hearing and seeing what that looks like. The second thing I wanted to say is, you guys are doing a lot of things really good. You're doing a lot of things really good. And the last thing that you want to hear, you know, having a full day is having people complain. So I'm not going to complain. I'm going to say each of you are doing a great job. I want to encourage you to think about another person's perspective. With all of this craziness of social media as well as communications, we've never been more miscommunicated than we were before. And so I sit on a couple of boards, and things can get kind of sideways. And so my point is, I would encourage you each to give each other, you know, a positive thought, and it's really an open-ended opening to have a conversation. So that being said, I just think it's important for whatever communication that goes on here at this body is that you continue with the dialogue. And you guys are doing a great job. Continue to do that and continue to try to strive to be better. So I just want to thank all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Juanita Kroon. No yielding.
Yes. In an effort to use all of my time, I'm going to,
There you go.
on my own, I'm going to read off all of the names. And I'm in the spirit of the song Destiny Child, Say My Name, say our titles. And I just want to read off all the classified staff titles that we have in our district. And some of them, I will say all levels, because some groups have various individuals in that group. Okay, electrical foreman, electronic equipment repair, energy maintenance, system technicians, grounds foreman, HVAC, plumbers, senior telecom and infrastructure technician. And I'm also going to skip, but not, it's only because I got raises already. So they were considered for raises, and I am going to skip a few.
Okay.
So I do apologize, and it's not just to omit you guys. You guys were rewarded, and I just want to acknowledge the people that haven't. Operations and parts supervisors, educational interpreters, ESOL instructional assistants, pupil service interpreters, senior network engineer architect. Bus drivers did get a raise, I believe. Coordinator of federal programs, electricians, plumbers, all levels. Personnel specialists, all levels. Energy maintenance system technicians, library support liaison, fixed asset specialists, IT, cabling and support technicians, all levels. Inventory specialists, and that's our technology inventory specialists. We have two groups. Student nutrition specialists, diesel mechanics, building service foremen, and I'm going backwards because some of the titles we may never have heard of. Operations specialists, all levels. Parts clerks, payroll specialists, all levels. Performing arts technicians, pre-K program specialists, operations specialists, all levels. Student nutrition coordinators, warehouse operations specialists, all levels. Building service technicians, all levels. Employee insurance specialists, general maintenance, all levels, which includes groundkeepers, locksmiths, payroll specialists, routers, wastewater technicians, account specialists, all levels, air conditioning repair men. I want to say that's the only group. ALE, I think, received a raise, I believe. No, ALE paras did not receive a raise. ALE para facilitators, plumber apprentice, pre-K support specialists, dyslexia interventionists, warehouse attendants, budget analysts, dispatchers, program specialists, federal program specialists. Thank you, guys. Oh, I'm not going to.
You want to read one more? You want to read
Yeah,
one more?
okay.
Good through one more.
Get to our in-school suspension specialists, our labelers, our lead custodians, all levels, our multi-elementary classroom intercessors, our registrars, which are our money, that's our budget people. We have to consider them. And my favorite group, besides my own technology group, is our bookkeepers. They're really operations managers of the school. And the title needs to change. And thank you guys so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
for the
We'll see you next
extra second.
month.
Yeah, see you next month.
Thank you, Ms. Kroon. Our next speaker is Isaac Henry.
Good evening, board. I'm not going to take too much of your time. Just wanted to express my pretty much disgust with my son's school that I moved him to. We transferred into Pulaski County School District in April of last year, from private school. And from the day we came, it's been unbelievably just horrible. From the moment we came over to the campus, kids were cussing out parents, kids were cussing out coaches, fights, like kids fighting coaches in the locker room, and we couldn't go back to where we came from because we came from private school. So we had to deal with the problem. So this year, okay, we said we would do what we have to do. Fast forward basketball season, okay, my son wasn't allowed to try for the basketball team, but the coach put him on the team. He didn't play. I don't care about any of that. He supported his teammates all year. Last week, time to go to the state tournament, he was told that he couldn't go because they can only take 15 kids to the tournament, which was a lie. I've been an educator my whole life. I actually taught at Marmel High School. So I know the district very well. I know education very well. It's about kids, and this is about me speaking up for kids because I wasn't going to come, but a lot of other parents told me, no, please come, because we've had the same issues with our kids not being spoken for and taken up for. And this is what we deal with. I made a Facebook post. It had over 200 shares, and all these parents started calling me, getting my phone. I don't know what they got my phone number for. Messaging me about, please go talk to the school board. And I was like, all right, I'll do it. I was like, I'll be honest with you. This is not about my son. He'll be okay. But there are several kids in this district that are not okay. You don't know what these kids are going through, mental health issues, things like that. These kids supported their team all year long to be told that they couldn't go be with their brothers because the bus didn't have enough room, which is not true. Completely not true. Fine. That's okay. Like I said, my son's gonna be okay, because I raised him right. And I raised him that it's not about sports, it's not about anything else, it's about being good to kids. And so I want to implore this board to really look into what is going on in Marmel High School. It is not good. It is not good. Like I said, if we could have left, we would have, but we had to stick it out, and I told him to stick it out this year. But what was done to him was uncalled for, and it was inexcusable. But this is not an isolated incident. This is what I found out from other parents emailing me, like I said, that it's happening all the time. And so all our employees, it's good, fine to win state championships, but hey, take care of kids. And that's why I'm saying, please take care of these children in this school district. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Henry. Our final speaker is Justice Goley, KG Goley.
Good evening.
Hi.
Point of reference, I'm former
Okay.
JP, even though I can still carry the title, Honorable
Okay.
Justice Christina KG Goley.
You
Thank
want me
you.
to say former or next time?
Yeah, maybe next time.
Okay, all
We
right.
get some laws changed, Lord willing.
Okay.
Anyway, I'm here today on behalf of the McAlmont community leaders, and they're not able to come tonight. I received a copy of the resolution that you all passed back in November, and there's a lot of chatter going on that, let me see here, this $10.64 million that's gonna be put into the school for renovations, and I need to know if that's correct, and if the start date is truly September 2025 for the renovations of Harris.
Well, that doesn't happen right now. We don't respond during public comment.
Okay.
But I can call you and talk to you about that if you would
Yes,
like.
you can do that, because I'm hearing different pieces of this, and we just want to know if the school, they're going to start renovating it in the fall, and if the money is truly there. And if it's not there, we need to know what happened to the money, because I'm hearing different information that's not really coming from school board members, but the information supposedly coming from the school board. So you guys know, you can just let us know, we can get the word out, okay, to the alumni.
Okay.
Okay,
All
thank
right, thank you.
you.
Okay, that's the last public comment I have. That will bring us down to reports and presentations. Our first report is certified PPC. Ms. Robinson.
Good evening, board and Dr. Guest. I too want to commend the students that are leaving. Awesome job, students, awesome job. Advocating for yourself. That's great that students are able to do that. The PPC did meet this month. We are still working on some policies to bring to you. Still also working on some things that are going on at the Capitol right now with the legislators. There's some things that we're still waiting for those things to go through or not go through on some of our policies that we're going to change. And we have been in collaboration with the classified PPC chair, just looking at our policies together, seeing what may, need to change, and make sure that our policies mirror each other in some areas that need to be. So we are working on those things as well. This is March, so we're getting close to spring break. And we're also getting close to our state test, which will happen in April. And we know that our certified teachers as well as administrators, we're all in gear to making sure that we continue to see the growth that Dr. Whitfield talked about on this month and last month, the growth in our schools. So I'm hopeful that we will have some policies available to you on next month.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Our next presentation is our classified PPC presentation. Ms. Nichols?
Good afternoon.
Hi.
So I have to write my speech down. Hope to be like Ms. Robinson one day and just fly off the dome, but I have a speech. Good evening. I want to say I appreciate the opportunity to speak before you today regarding our classified staff. I would like to start by asking the board to ask yourselves, when was the last time you took the time to familiarize yourself with the classified policies? Or a better question is, how familiar are you with the classified policies? Whether you are familiar or not, I would like to know, or like to let you know, If you are not aware, there are disparities in benefits between classified and certified staff. I'll give you 3 examples. For example, certified staff currently have an extended leave policy. Classified staff do not. Certified staff have court appearance leave. Classified staff do not. Certified staff, there are opportunities for professional development and tuition reimbursement, while classified staff does not have these benefits. These are just a few examples of policies that all employees can benefit from, but are only specifically mentioned for certified staff. Disparities such as these create an imbalance in how employees are supported during times of need, and it is essential to work toward incorporating equitable policies that reflect fairness across all employment classifications. While both groups are essential to our district's success, the policies governing their benefits often do not reflect the equal importance of their roles. Fairness in wages and benefits, including leave policies and professional opportunities, should be a priority to ensure all employees feel valued and supported. So I ask you, would it not be reasonable to cultivate and grow our own to help fill critical positions to better serve our students? The Classified PPC Committee is committed to reviewing all personnel policies for classified staff to ensure they are current and aligned with best practices. We are also dedicated to identifying key disparities and will always advocate for better pay, of course, and necessary changes. In February, the Classified PPC Committee launched a district-wide survey to gain a deeper understanding of the needs and concerns of classified staff. This survey aimed to provide a clearer picture of the needs and concerns faced by our classified staff and the areas where support is most needed. While we did not receive as many responses as we hoped, the responses that we did collect revealed a dedicated and passionate workforce. Clearly, our classified staff members enjoy working with students and each other daily, and their love for education and service motivates them to come to work despite challenges such as low pay and limited benefits. However, dedication alone is not enough to sustain a thriving workforce. Employees should not have to choose between doing what they love and not having adequate pay, the security and benefits that they deserve. That is why we will relaunch the survey to gather additional insights and ensure that every voice is heard. I would like to assure all classified employees that their responses will remain confidential and will only be used to guide the PPC committee in making decisions that benefit them. I would like to take this time to express my gratitude to Ms. Brenda Robinson, PPC chairperson. The week before last, we did have a meeting. It was our first meeting where we collaborated on several policies that affected us all. I would like to thank her for providing me with valuable insights and knowledge. I am very thankful for her willingness to work together and her openness to ensure that our policies are equitable and fair. Her wisdom and guidance is truly appreciated. This partnership and collaboration is an important step toward addressing concerns and fostering a district culture that values fairness for all employees, regardless of their classification. In our commitment to advocating for fair policies, at next month's board meetings, we will begin proposing necessary changes that the Classified PPC Committee has voted on to promote equal benefits. These proposed changes will address some disparities, which in turn will strengthen employee morale, retention, and overall job satisfaction within our district. In turn, we respectively ask you, board, to consider the concerns raised by our classified employees and support efforts to ensure that all our staff members receive the respect, benefits, and opportunities they deserve. Addressing these issues will promote fairness and reinforce PCSSD's commitment to all employees, more specifically classified employees. I look forward to working together to make meaningful changes that will benefit PCSSD classified employees. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Keith and Wayne, I'm going to push y'all down a little bit. We're going to see if Ms. Ward we'll get here, and then I'll pull you all up, okay? That's gonna bring us into, actually, Mr. Johnson, let me pull you, can I pull you up now and do your construction report, and then we'll do Ms. Rowlett and Dr. Guess?
I don't know, Dr. Delaney. I may want to go last today.
Well,
Board, good evening. Good evening. All right. Couple of brief updates for the board this evening in regards to construction. We'll start with Mills High School, and before I start with construction on Mills, I would like to talk about 3 March, last Monday. So last Monday, Mills High Comets girls softball team held their first home game, and it was electric in their home, new home. Subsequently, they ended up winning the game 19-2, if I'm not mistaken.
forfeited, the other team, they gave up, the other team.
They ended up giving up.
They were down 3 to start, and then they just blew it out after that.
To say our young ladies were excited would probably be an understatement. And it was gratifying at the time frame, in the rain, in the cold, to be there, to watch the excitement, and our kids have an awesome event on their home field. So I just wanted to share that for a second, if I could.
Who threw out the first pitch?
I did that
No.
over on the boys' field.
No, there was no first pitch on the girls' side.
There was no, well, they couldn't be 2 places at the same time.
That's right, that's right. But
But
if
I
anyone
will
could,
say-
you could.
I will say the ball did go across the plate. It was ugly, but
Did
it
it?
went across the
Oh,
plate.
I was gonna ask if it was a strike.
And anybody got a video, we're gonna have a problem, but that's my story, I'm sticking to it.
Is the girls slow pitch?
I didn't see the,
It's fast.
Oh, I was gonna say,
I
you
think
might
it's
wanna do
fast.
that one next time.
yes, ma'am. Actually, I threw a softball better than I did baseball. I will tell you that. All right. But go ahead and give an update as far as construction goes. Mills High School is coming along fairly well. On the classroom side, the guys are inside. The building is enclosed for the most part. And they're working on fixtures, painting, and all of the ancillary closeout pieces to try to get us ready for that July timeframe where they're going to turn the building over. I subsequently believe we'll be ahead of schedule based on the last information they provided me, is that we'll be ahead of schedule. And they couldn't confirm how far I anticipated May, but they're like, Curtis, we're going to be about there. So we'll be early as far as turning that portion of the building over to us. July 1st is still the time frame for the arena, and everything in the arena is coming along just perfectly. They had one last section of concrete to pour on the second level, and then a few blocks that were a host of block and masonry work that was still to be finished, while the utilities are starting to be ran and completed and touched up. So it really looks the part. When they close the building in, I think I'll be excited, because at that point, just standing on the inside as we've done construction around the district, it's the part, it's an arena, and it looks really, really good so far. So that's an update for Mills High School. College Station, to give you a brief update, we did have a conversation with Shannon Moore with ASBA Insurance. They are reviewing the bid documents from the company that did the initial bid layout. And upon review of that, they'll give us the final pricing for College Station. And that's kind of the update for College Station at this point in time.
Are you still thinking that it's gonna be a check, or do you think they'll make us?
Based on her statement, we had the opportunity for the check, and it was favorable for that.
Okay.
I think by the time they watch the documents to make sure that they see anything that's crazy or they want to question, once that's done, I think we'll be fine with a check.
But you've gotten that kind of confidence lately too, with talking to them?
Yes, I mean, Ms. Moore is not a person that will shoot me in a different direction. When she first told it to me, I take it for gospel.
Okay.
And she doesn't deviate too much from that.
Okay.
Good. Last but not least, Robinson Elementary. The sped classroom that you guys approved several months ago, we're complete with that classroom. The classroom turned out extremely well. I think there's one piece left to be ordered, which is the changing table for that particular facility. Other than that, the building principal is excited. SPED folks are excited and the teacher is excited about the classroom, and it really, really looks good. As we push forward with that model to go for Pine Forest, Clinton Elementary, and then there's another piece tonight that'll be discussed for Mills High School. So we go from there.
You talking about the one in the consent agenda on the special ed?
Yeah, the one that's tonight is for meals.
I think that's in the consent
Is
agenda.
it? It's an action item for new business.
Oh, okay, all right.
It's E.
Okay, right. Oh, the life skills, okay,
Yes.
weird. All right.
That concludes my report. Are there any questions?
I got one.
Come on, Ms. Smith.
Well, Laurel, you wanna go first?
Sure. Are we still expecting the GMP for Robinson I in April?
Yes, we are. We had that conversation today. The architects are trying to close out the information and get all the approvals necessary for that, so we're pressing forward with that. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so after looking at the pictures of College Station and the flooding, what is the reason why they're using a wooden board plank versus us having built some kind of a rolling, lockable, wheeled step over, like building a plank, but a wide one that is solid? And can we not build something, because we are in rain season, and I know Sylvan Hills has problems too with rain, but that was even, as bad as Sylvan Hills is, that's to me worse. And it kind of, just something to come down over the steps, because I saw a wooden board plank, and I'm like, there's nothing that would not get us in a lot of trouble if somebody flipped that plank.
Yeah, and.
A, B,
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, what are those crate things called, the, crate board, what, okay. Anyway, in all of my creative artsy fartsy kind of stuff, I could come up with a better way than walking over a plank. But then also on the sidewalks, like building up something you can step onto, even if it's wood, and then walking over it where it's low lying. It's temporary. But if that plank is legal enough, we can build something inexpensive and yet useful temporarily, right?
So
Can't we?
you got A and B. What do you want to take first?
I think I'll address it this way.
A, the board shouldn't be there, and B, my idea wouldn't work either? Is that what you're
Actually,
saying?
A is we should have did this a long time ago.
And we all know we're not arguing that.
And I'll take full responsibility.
Well,
I'll
I'm
stand
just
here
saying
as I always
creative.
do. But here's the deal, Ms. Smith. I mean, for almost 2 years now, when this became mission critical, and I knew we were going to get mission critical, we were pressing. We redesigned the structure multiple times to try to figure out what could we afford. And we went from 3 million all the way up to 13.5 million. Right? And so now we're at the crossroads where potentially providing the bonds are approved through the state for the second lien bond for 15 million.
Right.
Then there's 10.5. So we've already been reduced because now you're looking at somewhere around 8 million to deal with this building, which means I've got to go back and try to figure out a design to deal with $8 million. And so it's frustrating for everyone. Let me just be
I'm not
candid.
talking about the future.
No, I'm just talking about
like just
but we're talking
short-term, temporary.
and I
Can
get
we
short
not?
term, and we'll work to get that taken care of.
But why didn't we already? I mean, I'm just a hairdresser, but I can see how that
Oh, no,
everybody
you are a hairdresser.
do it. Okay. I know, first client right there. So we don't have a wood shop class anymore, right? But we have all of our academies. Like, can we get the kids to help be
I can assure you
creative
that.
on?
I'll take you to get that taken care of. It's not even
I mean,
an item.
I can sketch you out
The-
my
the-
idea.
The item for, and I'll just be candid when I say this, the item for me is just, let's just take care of the business and get it done.
And we can, but
That's-
temporarily, I can help you put some hammer and nails and
You know, I got
make
guys
some
that
great
can get
things
that
and
taken care of.
get some
Some
stuff
of those
for the
pictures, in
kids.
fairness, I've not seen. Some of those pictures I have not seen.
Right, I mean, and
Some I
I
have.
get it. Sylvan Hills floods, because it's that low lying, and if those pipes don't get cleaned out from the leaf drainage, then it builds up and it becomes like 1 foot deep all the way across the whole, and that's to get to the cafeteria, into the bus area. Like, I've seen it happen there numerous times, but I know why it does it, because I've been there my whole life. But as per that, I'm like, that could be temporarily fixed, just like that board they were walking across both ways. But, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm not trying to be ugly, I'm just like.
No, you're okay, Miss
Like,
Smith. You're fine.
a couple of blocks and we could do this.
That would be nice if we could maybe hear next month about what a short-term fix would be. so they're not sloshing in the water.
Yes, ma'am.
How many elementary schools do we have that flood like that? I mean, I've gotten complaints out at Lawson, I'm not bringing you complaints, I'm just trying to put it in context here. Every school needs to be warm, safe, and dry. Do we have, we have a lot of old buildings, we have a lot.
We have a lot of old
And
buildings.
College Station is one of the oldest,
That's correct.
but do we have standing water at other buildings too?
Yeah, you're gonna have some standing water, but not to the magnitude of College
Okay,
Station.
all right, okay.
Is there any way we can get like the East classes to help with this problem?
We'll get the problem resolved. Yeah, as far as East classes participation, I can't stand by what an instructor will actually have kids do. What I'll do is just get a simple engineer to basically draw what I need, and we'll get it taken care of.
I was just asking because I'm in East class and our teachers always like we need to find problems that might help the community, and this sounds like a problem that they could benefit from.
Yeah, but to get it organized and get it executed in a time frame is not always a feasible thing. I'll give you an example.
2 years.
I was presented with a project for Oak Grove Elementary, stage expansion piece across the stage. And I was asked to provide the materials for it, which was no big deal. But that carried on for almost a half a school year, to a point to where I said, hey, we can't wait on it anymore because the school needs it. Let's just go ahead and address the issue. So we will get it taken care of.
In the old days, that would have been the Eagle Scout project.
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, it would have been the wood shop, it would have been, like, there are so many different classes we used to have that would have covered
Yeah,
those.
VOTEC, pick any,
That's
I'm
what our
showing my
economics
age a
is
little
for.
bit when I say VOTEC class. So.
There's a lot of stuff going on with fixing schools, there's code things that have to be dealt with too, and all of that, right, Mr. Johnson? That's why it's better if the district handles it, right?
Yes, sir.
essentially.
From a liability standpoint.
Yeah, right. Okay, all right. Anything else from Mr. Johnson before we release him? Not too far, though.
Understood.
Okay. All right, thank you,
Thank you.
Mr. Johnson. Okay, we've got everyone here, so let's do our McPherson-Jacobson search update.
Neither one of us are moving very fast, so we appreciate your patience with us. Mr. Delaney, if it's okay, I would like for Wayne to address the board in regards to where we are on
Okay.
questions, and just state our purpose and how that we try to facilitate this.
Okay.
Again, good evening, board members, Dr. Guest, staff members, members of the audience. It's a pleasure to be back here. I believe this is our, officially our 5th time back in the district. We presented a list of questions, suggested questions, for you all to present to applicants. Again, these are suggested questions. As we've stated several times before, we've done several iterations of these questions. So again, it's not to direct you or drive you in any particular direction, because we work for you. And if you come up with 21, 22 questions or more that can be asked, then that's your prerogative. But again, the questions that we came up with, we felt like were in alignment with the 13 criteria that you were looking for in your next superintendent. So therein lies our justification on the ones that are out there right now. But again, if you want to change all of those, then it's certainly your right to do so. And add additional questions. Because some questions call for a follow-up. So, but again, we want to make sure that once you change those questions, that same question is asked to each applicant.
Okay. All right.
I might add also that we are running almost out of time, so we really need to have a consensus here in the next couple of weeks or so on what you all want to ask, so that it can go in for the applicants.
Yeah, the questions, I'm gonna try to talk to the board about that and see if I can get some consensus and possibly a vote on how we wanna handle the questions and just the protocols for the next month. Because over the next month, we're gonna be here for special meetings to do semifinalist interviews, or to select our semifinalists, to go through the semifinalists, and then select the finalists, which then will come back and interview them. So the semifinalists will be selected, they won't be here, but we'll have the materials. And then from those semifinal, that'll be one meeting, and then the finalist meetings, when we meet with them and interview them, that could stretch over 2 days, depending on the number of finalists we have. So we need to know those questions, certainly before the finalists are here, and they need to be given to you so that you can make sure they're legal or whatever. But I've got protocols that I'm going to suggest to the board and see if they'll accept them or not. So we'll try to get that addressed tonight.
Okay. And some members have chimed in on various questions as far as deletions, revisions, so forth. But that's kind of where we are right now.
Okay. All right. Did y'all have any other updates, or did you? Okay. So board, what you have, this is in the agenda packet if anyone's looking at home or here in the audience, but everybody has in front of you a one-pager. It has basically two sections. One at the top says previously agreed calendar, and then the other says final protocols. So when I say previously agreed calendar, I mean at the last time we were here, so that would have been the 17th of February. We discussed when would be what would be a good set of dates to do these tasks in. And so I've put that into a visual form here with what we said is the 31st of March, the 1st, 2nd, and the 3rd would be times that we would hold open our calendars for selecting going through our semifinalists, okay? So 31st of March through the 3rd, I've got those in yellow. And then we also said on the 17th that we would hold open the 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th to do the interviews for finalists. So I've got those in pink there, but the 8th is our regular board meeting, so I don't think we should interview anybody during that meeting. So that leaves the 7th, 9th, and 10th to do interviews. And so that's just to remind you of what we talked about on the 17th in terms of the dates. So on the right side there, you've got the final protocols, and there's two recommendations. Whose recommendations? That's just what I drew up, okay? So recommendation A would be, what I'm suggesting here would be to select our finalists on the 31st, okay? So and then hold open the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd if for some reason we don't get done on the 31st. But try to get our finalists picked on the 31st, which is a Monday. Then depending on how many, because, you can have as many finalists as you want, but in talking with y'all, I thought 3 or 4 is probably a manageable number, right? I've seen districts that do 5. I don't know if I've ever seen one do 6, but if you do 3 or 4, then you'll probably need to stretch those out over 2 days. So I suggested the 9th and the 10th, which would be after the 8th regular meeting, as interview day 1 and interview day 2. That would allow us to pick up to 4 finalists and do 2 on each night. Now, if we have 3 finalists, or 2, we may not need both of those days. But the 9th and the 10th seemed like days that would work on this calendar to do back-to-back days of interviews. I did also tell you, board, that I would check with Mr. Beckett on what we are legally allowed to do with respect to meeting times. The Arkansas law says that you can have a school board meeting anytime except if it's dealing with personnel. And any board meeting that deals with personnel has to be after 5. And so Mr. Beckett said that we cannot do our interviews before 5. So we are limited to starting at 5 because of the Arkansas law, because we're going to treat the superintendent, we're going to err on the side of caution and treat that as a personnel decision that the board is making. So that would mean that we cannot go before 5 unless it's an emergency, and this would not be an emergency. We've known this is coming for some time. So and then we could, that night, let's say that we had 4 finalists. I don't know how many finalists we're gonna have, but let's say we had 4 and we followed this recommendation, just to spell out what it would mean. We would know our finalists on the 31st. We would interview, and we would have 4, let's say. And then we would interview 2 on the 9th and 2 on the 10th. And then that would, but if we did 2 hours a person, that would put us, into like 9, 10 o'clock at night. So we could either make the decision on the 10th or come back on like the 14th, for example, and make the decision. Because the other thing that we had agreed on earlier was that we would use Mondays for any kind of special meetings that we needed to have related to the superintendent search, because that worked best. So we've also got that other thing we said is Mondays for any kind of special meetings that we need. So that's why I've got TBD next to 4 right there, is because we could make the decision on the 10th, or we could just adjourn and then go home and think about it and then come back together on the 14th and make a decision after 5 o'clock. So first recommendation would just be on trying to set these days and locking these days in. So that was my recommendation, suggestion, whatever, is recommendation A, to start screening on the 31st and then set our interviews for the 9th and the 10th, and then determine at that time how we want to when we want to vote on the finalists. Thoughts?
I'm good with those.
Eli?
I'm good.
Ms. Ward?
Oh, great, I agree.
Okay.
However you wanna do it.
Okay, so, that could mean, though, that like, if for some reason we go long on the 31st, we could need to spill over into the 1st, 2nd, or 3rd on selecting the finalists, but hopefully we can get those done on the 31st. So, let's just get this into the minutes as a vote. I move to approve recommendation A, which is the 31st for selecting the finalists, and the 9th and the 10th for interviewing.
I'll second.
Okay. So recommendation A, I made the motion and Dr. Tate seconded. Discussion?
Why did we drop the 7th?
Just because I felt like we weren't going to have more than 4, because usually when you have more than 4, it's weird. But if we do have more than 4, we can just, that meeting, come out and add the 7th back.
Can that be the TBD?
No, because it comes before. The TBD has to come after you've interviewed.
Okay.
Because
I was
that's
just
when you're,
thinking
that's when you're picking your
7
superintendent.
if we need to pick up another day.
What?
Well, okay.
Well, this is just, okay, so we're gonna get together on the 31st if this passes, okay? And then we're gonna know what kind of people we have in our pool. And
Yeah.
if it needs to go, then we'll come back out, we'll be together then, and we can adjust the calendar. Okay? So, but as we sit here on the 11th, I wanna try to get, because the search firm needs to know this too, and everybody on this board needs to know what those days are gonna be as we sit here on the 11th. And so I wanna lock us in, and then we'll reconvene on the 31st and start working, and if we need to monitor and adjust, we'll just modify this situation. Okay?
Got it.
Because we could have 2 finalists, and then only interview on the 9th, and then come back on the 10th and pick on the 9th or whatever. Okay, so the motion and the second on the floor is to just approve recommendation A as it is on this sheet, show up on the 31st, and start work.
But you need a second.
No, I got that.
Okay.
I was just repeating myself.
Okay.
All in favor of recommendation A, 31st, then the 9th and the 10th, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Okay, and then recommendation B is, this came out of my brain too. It's more about the protocols for what we're gonna be doing, and how we'll operate inside of those days. So after talking with Keith and everything, and Wayne, is this was my suggestion, but we're gonna need input on this, of course, is we wanna try to keep, what I thought here is to try to keep each interview to 2 hours, okay? Could go over a little bit, but have a goal of 2 hours per person. Because if we have more than one finalist, we're gonna wanna treat them all the same, okay? So, number one on recommendation B would be to give each board member 3 questions that they pick, that comes out of their minds. They can use what were the suggested questions, or they can order off a different menu, okay? But each board member gets 3, except for me, who gets 0. Okay, that would put us to 18 questions. And so that brings me down to number 2. 3 times 6 is 18 questions, but these questions, they have to be asked to everybody the same, okay? So when you're designing these questions, you're gonna have to give them to everybody. So I'll get no questions, but I'll moderate and just keep track of time to try to keep us going, okay? Since my sense is that we may have people with a lot of custom questions, okay, based off of the feedback that I got from Keith and Wayne from talking to y'all, is I think that we're gonna have members that want to ask their own questions, okay? And so that number 4 I have down there is that, and I also thought that you might want to know who your finalists are before you give McPherson your questions, okay? Because maybe you see the finalists and think this question would be appropriate for this group of finalists. So that's why number 4 would be that we have a deadline of the 31st, that night, after we pick our finalists, to also leave the meeting with Keith and Wayne having all our questions. You can give them to them before, but
We hope so.
yeah, right, well, I understand, but we'll all be together then. And the other thing is that we can't go into executive session on its own right now, this moment, to pick questions, because we have to go into executive session to talk about people. The first time that we'll have people to talk about in executive session is the 31st. So when we're back there with those people that we're looking at, we can talk about questions we want to ask them, okay? So that will be the last time too, if we wanted to talk about questions, we could do it in executive session under that context, okay? Because we can't go back there to talk about questions right now because we don't know who we're talking about. But we will know who we're talking about on the 31st. So that felt like a good day to set for the drop dead date for these. Your questions have to be to Keith and Wayne by the adjournment of that meeting.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So the 3 questions that we're gonna pick, we can pick from the list that they sent out, or we can pick ones that weren't sent out. But if I send him 3 questions and say 2 were off the sheet that he sent out and 1 was a custom question, how am I gonna know that the others didn't pick the 2 suggested ones the same as I did?
Because we'll be here together on the 31st.
So we'll just discuss them then. So I need to have backup if I use recommended questions, or?
Sure, sure, I mean, you know, right, yeah. If we do it blind, yeah, people could step over top of each other, but they'll know that, okay? So they could call and say, Ms. Maynard, you've got a question that's similar to another question we saw. Do you want to do something different? Or call the other board member and say that too. Or we can just talk about it back there when we've got our candidate, our semifinalists. So there is going to be some, like, you know, traffic. You know, you could step on top of each other on your questions, but we'll be together on the 31st with people to talk about in executive session. So we can say, hey, are we comfortable? This is the list of questions that everybody has. Are we comfortable asking these questions? Does anybody want to adjust their question based on what the other person thought, had a question, et cetera? So we'll be back there to do that then. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. The only thing about your questions is they have to be legally appropriate, okay? So, you know, they just can't be a prohibited question, you know. And what's a prohibited question? You know, like how old you are, things like that. You know, like there are certain questions that you just can't ask. It creates liability. But I feel like we're probably not going to run up against something like that. But I have to put that out there is it does need to be legally appropriate. Okay, but they will be your questions, okay? Each board member, 3 questions, okay? They'll be your questions as long as they're legally appropriate, and you ask each person the same question. That's all, right? That's the bare minimum we need here, right, Keith? Okay. Then the 7th item on here was we want to try to stay at 2 hours per candidate, which means that if we have 18 questions, if you have 18 questions and 120 minutes, you can get about 7 minutes a question with a little bit left over, okay, 6 or 7 minutes per question, which is why I won't ask any questions. I'll just keep track of time so that we don't go over. So that means that for each one of your questions, not all three, but each one, you get about 18 minutes, of answer time. If the candidate takes up the full time, you don't have follow-ups or whatever, which means that we'll have a little bit left over for introductions and things like that. But that, at 2 hours, I think that's a healthy amount of time to get an answer out of somebody or determine if they're just not answering your question, okay? Because in 6 minutes, I think you can usually tell if they're giving a responsive answer or not, okay? But you get 3 questions and approximately 6 minutes apiece is how that timing would work.
So, okay, you say 2 hours should be enough time for each candidate?
With 18 questions.
I mean, we can't get out of this board meeting in 2 hours. So you feel strong that we're gonna be able to interview somebody within 2 hours?
Well, I went back and looked at what we did in what y'all did in 2018,
Right.
and it took about 2.5 hours. If the board wants to do 2.5, we could start at 5 and get out of here by 10.
No, I'm just saying, we do a lot of talking.
Yeah, well, but if you'll notice, one of the things I did is not give myself any questions, because I do the most talking of them all.
Well, we might get out.
So that's why I thought 2 would work. If I got questions, it would be 2.5.
Starting to look good.
Yeah, so, I mean, but if we want to say 2.5, we can.
No.
Okay. All right. And then here's the thing, is if we adopt recommendation B or some modification of it, we'll still be back here on the 31st. We'll see our candidates, we'll see how the world looks, and everybody will have slept like 20, 30 times. And if we want to adjust those protocols, we just need to do it before we start interviewing people.
Right.
So if we have a better idea, then we can come out, we'll have to discuss that publicly, okay? So that conversation would be out here, is say, hey, I thought 2 hours were gonna work, but maybe 2.5 looks better based on the candidates that we got, whatever. So, but I wanna try to lock us into what we'll all understand to be the plan, which could change if we decide to change it on the 31st. So, of those 8 items under recommendation B, does anyone want to adjust any of those?
Motion to approve recommendation B.
Second.
Okay, Dr. Tate made a motion to approve recommendation B, and Maynard seconded? Okay. All right, further discussion. On a round-robin format, I think it would work like this somebody goes first, and then it goes all the way through to the last person, and they ask the 7th question, or 6th question, and then they also ask the 7th, and then it goes back through, sort of like a snake. But we can adjust that too, but that's what I mean by round robin.
Y'all okay with that?
Yes. Sure.
Okay, because he telling y'all what we gonna do.
I talked to Keith about it last night.
Oh, okay, okay. I know y'all.
And I sent it, we all.
This is your search, and as long as it's legal and ethical, whatever you ask us to do, we're gonna do. This is fine.
Oh, okay.
I showed it to him first last night and sent it, then emailed it to him and Wayne, after we had talked. And so he's had 24 hours to see this, and, he thought it was okay. That's why I was proposing it here.
Thank you, Delaney, for doing all the work.
So, we've got a motion on the floor for recommendation B as it's printed here, with the understanding that we come back, number 8, we can review and adjust recommendation B on the 31st. So I'm gonna put recommendation B to a vote. All in favor of recommendation B, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. So I'll email that, you've already got the sheet. So, we didn't modify anything here, so if it's a couple weeks later, you come back and look and say, what did we agree on? It's this sheet, it's in your email box.
All right.
I'd like to make note of a couple of things if I could, Delaney.
Okay.
We are, tonight, the applications will close, and of course, Wayne and I are gonna be in isolation the next week as we start vetting all these applicants that have merit to really, really commit a lot of time to. I want to just share with you one or two points about our vetting. Now, we can look at a lot of resumes that are voluminous and articulate, but when we start making calls, somebody, and in some instances, put more on paper than they've ever done before or capable of doing. And that's our job, to sort through that and allow the ones that have past performance, that meet your criteria, that float to the top. Now, we can't tell you what number that will be yet. So when we narrow this down to what we call a short list. You don't have to accept our short list. You can add to it, because we'll have a stack of applications about this high when we come back. You'll have a list of names, and if you have questions about any of them, that's your prerogative to ask us. We will tell you why they did not make, we call our short list. You say, I still want to interview them, that's fine. That's strictly your option. But we have reasons, and valid reasons, of why we did not move somebody on a short list. Now, what we will do is bring back reference information from all of our calls, and we have that summarized typically in 2 sheets. And then we will also bring back about a video of 10 minutes or less where all 3 of them will respond to the same 3 questions. And this is on our short list. Then you will go into executive session with our reference information and the videos, and then you will make a decision, if this is a format you want to follow, of who you want to interview. If you want to interview 6, if we have 6 and you want to interview them all, that's fine. If you tell us you want to interview 3, that's fine. When you tell us who you want to interview, we will set up the interviews, work in conjunction with the administration, and make sure that everything is set up and arranged so that it'll be very, very smooth, and you'll have your interviews on the 8th and 9th and 10th of April, or if you have more than 4, then it may extend over another day, however you choose to do that. But that's the way we're going about this. And if there's anything that you question or you feel like that needs to be altered, we'd like to know that now, because that's going to impact how we prepare for the 31st.
Okay, question.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you made a statement that if we think that there should be someone that you didn't pick, we have a right and you'll put them in there.
Yes, when we get to the short list, yes, that's fine.
Really? So what, that's gotta come from the majority of this board? If they,
I'm not going to tell
majority
you
of the
that.
board?
I'm going to tell you that will be something, a board decision, if you want to interview somebody that we do not bring forward on a short list. That'll be a board decision, not ours.
So
You tell us how you want it done, that's what we'll do.
you're talking about finalists, right? Like the
Fine.
Yeah, he just said, yeah. He just said if the list that they recommend and someone that we don't see on the list in their final list, we have a right to tell them that we would like to see them interviewed.
we're going to vote on who the finalists are.
Yeah, I mean, that you would vote on it. I wouldn't tell you that, but you'll vote on who you're going to interview.
The first thing I need to clarify is so on the 31st is when we're going to see, the first time we're going to see any names, right? That's right. The board is going to see the names. We're going to be back in executive session. We're going to have application materials. What application materials are we going to have? Just the short list?
Typically, what we will have is the information, the application, resume, reference letters of those on the short list, and also their educational background. That will be in your packet of each individual that we have a video on.
So we don't know how many people's going to be on the short list because the applications haven't closed.
Right.
But it was my expectation, I'm not saying this was, that regardless of who's on your short list, we're still going to be able to see a list of the long list, shall we say?
The long
right? Okay, and what other information can we have about people who's on the long list?
We can, go ahead, Wayne.
And we will have gotten with you before that, and those that didn't make it, giving reasons why.
We'll meet with you, an hour and a half before the board meeting. We'll be meeting with you as an individual. We can do that.
But let's say we get back there on the long list, and Ms. Ward wants to talk to you two about why you did it. She doesn't want to hear it from me. Let's say that she wants to hear it from y'all, because y'all picked him, not me.
Yeah.
She can just come out here and talk to y'all, right?
One at a time. We talk to one at a time, yes.
Well, one board member at a time. She can go over here in the corner and talk to both of y'all, right?
Yes, that's fine, yeah.
And so we're gonna have a long, I think it would be, what we would want is we would want your recommendations, the short list, and the long list. And can we get application materials for the
Yes,
long
we'll have
list?
the whole application packets that we've created of every applicant that has applied.
That will be here on the
It
31st,
will be
that
on the
we can
31st.
sit back there with that book and go
Yes.
through all those materials.
Yes, sir.
But for the shortlisters, you will have asked only the shortlisters to have made a video.
That's right.
Okay, so this is an important point, is if we get on the 31st and we don't like their short list, and we like their short list, but we also like somebody on the long list, we may need one of those other dates to send y'all back to get them to make a video.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If we don't want to just pull them forward into the finalist without a video.
Right. And we could probably have a turnaround on that within 2 or 3 days and have you that electronically.
So,
I don't know why y'all act like I was speaking Spanish. Y'all know exactly what I said. So, basically, this board can drive who makes the list.
Yes.
Okay.
what list? The finalist list?
Yeah, you just said if
Yes.
they, okay.
We're not driving who's making the short list. Y'all are making the short list.
But if you,
Yes, I'm on the short bus.
Somebody didn't want excluded, and then they can drive who's on the short list.
Yeah, we can be back there and talk it out and,
That's-
yeah.
I think that's the point she's getting to, is the short list from them can be altered by whom? Like, is it one person can say, well, my candidate didn't make the short list, so I want them on the short list? Or does it have to be the board voting to add people to the short list?
So all that would happen on the 31st, because,
Right, but how does that happen? Is it one person or?
no,
is it
we
majority?
would have to, I think we would have to agree
Vote
to
on it.
do that.
board,
But
the board typically will come out of executive session after they look at videos, had their lengthy discussion, all of this, and come out and vote on, we want to interview X candidates.
I can't, I'm just gonna speak for myself. If we get a short list and there's one or two members that feel really strongly about a candidate and wanna see a video, I don't see why we couldn't come back and do that. I don't, as I sit here. I mean, I would wanna see the scenario that we're talking about, but no, does one board member have an inherent right by themselves to get a video made? Probably not, but I don't know, I can't see us not giving that courtesy if somebody felt strongly.
Why do we hire them? If we already got in mind who we want to see on the list, why are we wasting their time and paying that extra money?
We don't.
You don't know who's
We
gonna
do
be.
not.
Hey, I'm not talking to you.
Who are you talking to?
board.
You.
Okay, so the answer is we don't. We don't know who's gonna be on the short list. We don't know who's gonna be on the long list. We don't know.
But sound like you gonna make the list.
Well, that's wrong too.
No.
Let me say one point about that. This district is larger, it may be a little bit different. When Wayne and I in the past in numerous searches have brought forward a short list, and we speak with the board president prior to the meeting, and then let him know why X individuals did not make that short list, he has information about that. The board goes into executive session, they come out. Very rarely ever do we have someone pulled out of the stack and placed on the short list because of our work and giving you information about them and their past performance and some other things about them, why we did not recommend them. Very rarely ever.
But it would be in this district that it could happen. And
Good.
I personally want to hold open the idea that that could happen.
It can happen, sure. And you'll notice it does not make any difference to us if you do that. That's strictly your option.
Okay. But we'll have information on everybody on the 31st.
Sure will.
That was on the short list or the long list. And then we've got the first, second, and third, so that if we don't decide on the 31st, we've got time to come back and get videos of people that you didn't pick.
Yeah.
And we have no preconceived notions as to who will be on any list.
Okay.
That's all.
Other-
Yeah. Are we okay?
Yeah.
Yep, y'all gonna do what y'all wanna do. Go ahead.
Thank you,
We're
Keith and
doing
Wayne.
what you want us to do.
No.
Thank you all very much.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. So that brings us down to our final two items, financial update and then the superintendent's report. Ms. Rowlett.
Good evening, Board, Dr. Guest. As usual, I will be giving you a financial update on our legal funds, Funds 1, 2, and 4. And I just want to remind you all that you all have a financial report that is sent to you in your package that has all the other funds in there. If you so desire, like they have your capital outlay fund, your building fund, and your food service fund in that package. I just focused on the legal funds.
This fund does not have 5, 8, or any of those. Well,
Yes.
you do put a little food service thing down there.
Just the balance, but not the details. So if you look at this report, it looks differently than what I normally do, because we had to make some adjustments, based on going back, digging in the budget and some things that should have been budgeted in Fund 2, that was budgeted in Fund 5. So if you look to the left of your report, it has our current beginning balance for this period, which is, period 8 for February. And you can see that was 17 million. Our current month revenues, 5,000,008. Current month expenditures, 11.4, and our current ending legal balance, 11,000,004. So, in categorical fund balance, 887,000, which gives us a net legal balance of 10.5 for February. So if you go down to the middle of the report, you can see I've added 2 columns. One it says it's a budget adjustment there in the orange, and then the adjusted budget expenditures. So what we had to do, we had to go back and look at some things that probably should have been budgeted, but were not, and some of those things were budgeted in Fund 5, and they should have been budgeted in Fund 2. As you can see, the teacher's salary fund budget, it has increased by 306,000, and that's largely due to the superintendent's, the interim superintendent and the former superintendent's pay that we have to do, sick pay. So that's the reason for that increase. The classified salary increased because of the raises that you all approved for certain classes.
Why was there an increase in the former superintendent's? 'Cause we had already budgeted
No.
for that.
Well, we didn't budget for his sick and vacation pay. That wasn't in the original.
He got all that as a lump he's getting that as a lump.
Yeah, so we had to increase that.
So
That's
like,
why the certified.
carries forward until he retires or whatever.
Yeah, so that's about a little over $100,000, okay? And so when you increase the salaries, of course, you increase the benefits, so that was $345,000. So total increase to salaries and benefits, 1.1. The next increase was for maintenance and maintenance, and that was because we got a grant for the pouches for phone-free school. So that was an increase. We also had some security locks that we have to pay for. That was not originally budgeted. And then some metal detectors. That was like $99,000. And then we had sewer repairs that were not originally budgeted, so we had to put that in the budget, okay? The next thing was transportation. Their budget increased by $171,000, and the $150,000 of that was due to homeless transportation that was not originally budgeted. And some categorical funds that had some purchase services for transporting SPED students. So now the biggest increase was in operations, which that was for other operations, anything that doesn't fit in those other categories. So that was 4.1, and the biggest amount of that is due to the 1.8 million that we had earmarked to be paid out of operations, and it's technology, but it should have been paid out of Fund 2. And we were directed to put it in Fund 5, earmark those expenditures in Fund 5. They would have normally been paid out of operations, which we did about 3 years ago. We always paid, and that's like software, copier rentals, and anything technology, phone bills, anything that the lawyers told us that we could legally pay out of Fund 5, out of Fund 2, that would have been normally paid out of 5. That we could legally pay out of 5, that would have been normally paid out of 2. We put it over there. So now we decided, after having a conversation with the IT director, because he had some refresh coming up for the teachers, that we would put it back into. So 1.8 of that is because of those expenditures that were earmarked for 2, but should have been paid out of 5. That's the biggest increase. So for a total increase in expenditures of $6 million. So that brings our adjusted budget expenditures to $104 million. Any questions? I went through that kind of fast. Yeah,
What of those expenditures are we getting refunded through grants?
none of those. Well, some of those we will. Let me take that back. Like the phones will, the phone free, that's like $230,000.
What did you
None of-
say? The 230 was what?
For the phone pouches.
Oh,
We're
right.
experimenting on the phone pouches, that we're gonna give, so we'll get a grant for that. Not much of it, because the biggest amount is the technology.
Can I jump in here and kind of support some of what you're saying, or amplify on what you're saying? Go back up to that column where she started out, the one over on the left at the top. The first figure is $17 million. Go down to the last line. You see where that says revised projected 24-25 legal fund balance? That's $11,088,000. The budget that you approved earlier in the year projected an ending legal fund balance of $16,235. Now, I want to wrap your head around that. It was supposed to be $16 million. The projection right now is $11 million. Now, that is a reduction of $5 million, or less, in that ending legal balance. That's a big deal. The district has overspent it has not followed its budget and has overspent categories to a substantial degree. That's what she was telling you.
Yeah.
Now, let me remind you of a couple of things. Remember that there was $2.5 million in the operating fund that was the insurance money for College Station. Shouldn't have been there. I told you we were moving that out. That reduced the balance. There was $300,000 in there from last year's charged meals for kids. That should have been absorbed last year. It was not. Now, she just mentioned that there was $1.8 million that had been in IT. But what had happened, folks, the IT fund had built a balance up of about $3.7 million by the end of fiscal 23. And apparently it appeared that the ending fund balance was declining then. So the expenses that had been paid for out of operating, out of Fund 2, were moved into Fund 5.
There you go.
Now, what that means is Fund 5 was supporting operating expenses. Fund 5 is the technology stuff. Now, they were expenses that you could argue technology could have supported, but it had never supported them. For example, landlines, cell phones, copiers, and other expenses. Software, a lot of software. So money was taken out of Fund 5 to support Fund 2. Now, the balance by the end of fiscal 24 in IT was $6 million. So the continued use of Fund 5 to support 2 was going on. Now, why was IT building a balance? IT they get about $3 million. They got about $1.7 million in recurring expenses. About $3 million, 1, 2, something like that that's wrong. They have $3 million, 1.7 is recurring expenses, 1.3 is what they use to support Chromebooks and teacher devices with. In other words, we have to repurchase Chromebooks, and we have to refresh teacher devices. So IT had been supporting that, and they were building a balance to that effect. That balance was eroded to the point where it would have been impossible for IT to have supported that $1.8 million that she just mentioned. It could not have supported that and had any money left to support Chromebooks and laptops.
Teacher refresh.
So our decision to move expenses out of 5 back into 2 was a consequence of the realization that 5's funds were depleted to the point where we didn't have enough money to support what IT was supposed to do. So that money was moved into Fund 2, and then that's going to leave enough money in IT to support the activities they have to this year. However, that fund balance at the end of the year in IT is going to be, according to Mr. Hogg, about 0. So you can tell that Fund 5 had been supporting operating by allowing by expenses that had been traditionally operating to be moved into 5.
Thank you. I understood all that. I was asking what exactly in these new ones that we're now taking out to further lower our legal fund balance was going to be refunded through grants or something else. Because if we know that we're getting back the money for the cell phone pouches, then it seems inflammatory to keep adding stuff to continue to tank our legal fund balance, because that looks very poorly with the state.
I'm going to tell you, we'll get some professional learning grant. That's going to be, and we just got that. That's $397,000. The CSL grant, that's going to be reimbursable. Career academies, they got extra. That's Kristen Heron's program. She got $60,000, but we increased. She got a $90,000 increase in expenditures because we didn't have that FIFRA camp originally budgeted, because it was approved after I had submitted the budget, and that was $30,000. So that got increased. Part of the security expenditures, because we had a little bit left over from that grant, that's $69,000. But other than that, that's it. Okay.
So this isn't wholly accurate on how much it's going to drop our legal fund balance?
Yes,
Yes,
because I have accounted for all that stuff. Because if you go down and look at the revenue, you see where it's been adjusted. You see the ins and out there. You see for local revenue, $407,000. That includes some of the grants, other state aid. You see that was increased by $657. So that includes those grant numbers.
Let me mention a couple more things.
So a net to revenue is a negative 1.1.
We have been working as a budget committee for the last 2.5 months. And the budget committee is comprised of several people within of course, Ms. Rolette chairs that committee. And we have been trying to understand why the balance in the district has dropped 4 of the last 5 years. And it was projected to be 16 this year, but we doubted that was going to be true. So for the last 2 months and 2 weeks, we've been trying to figure out exactly what had happened. And what I think happened after talking to Ms. Rolette is that instead of that revenue was over budgeted.
It was over budgeted.
She would have been more conservative in budgeting revenue, but it was over budgeted. And expenses, we believe, were under budgeted, Mr. Keller. That answers part of your question.
Yeah.
And then, as I said, there was money moved from 5 to support 2. And there was also money moved from Fund 6, which is federal sources. In other words, I'm saying money's moved. There were expenses that were paid for out of 6 that should have been a Fund 2 expense. But Fund 6 picked it up to help support the Fund 2 balance.
Yeah.
So not only was the IT reserve depleted to near 0 at the end of this year, the balance in federal funds, Fund 6, has been eroded. There are unbudgeted expenses also that have been approved during the year, and that's another thing that Ms. Rolette mentioned in passing, but that's absolutely true. And you will have heard her say that she was told these were the approaches that she was to take. So I'm here to explain that these were not her decisions as best we can discover, but they were what she was told to do. And the changes that took place, it appears, were done to preserve what could have been an ending balance of $16 million. but it was impossible this year for that to happen. The funds from IT were gone and couldn't support that anymore. The funds from federal programs were going down and didn't need to anymore. So what we have established is that we believe, after all of these things that I have said, is that the balance is going to go down to about $11.1 million. Now, that could always change. We're doing everything we can to tighten up now. We have, is Ms. Whitfield in here? Ms. Whitfield has been denying more things. I know, we've talked about this. We are trying to be more judicious about what we agree to do. And we're trying to, Ms. Rolette, every time we have a cabinet meeting, we're talking about overtime. Now, let me also tell you that we're not denying overtime when it means that kids aren't going to get what they need. For example, there was supposed to be a dance at Sylvan Hills Junior High in the next week or so. Well, the principal said if we may need some security. Well, they're going to get security. We're not going to tell them they can't get security. If we can't juggle a schedule so that they go on their 40-hour week, we're going to pay overtime because the kids deserve a dance. The ball games this week, we're sending people to Hot Springs. If the principals want to take security with them, they're going to take security. We're not doing anything that would take away from the experience that kids should be getting or that would endanger them, to the best of my knowledge. So that is the work of almost 2.5 months to figure out where we're going and what we need to do to try to finish this year as successfully as possible.
That was good. So who discovered these infractions? You?
Yes, ma'am.
They're not, just to be clear, they're not infractions.
Well,
Okay.
Well, I'll since you asked.
What y'all want to call it? Who discovered?
Well, when
what's the word?
I'll just answer this, I'll address it.
Thank
When
you.
Dr. Guest first got here, I expressed my concerns about the budget. I was never comfortable with
Okay.
that budget, because, especially the 2 million, because I never got any paperwork or anything showing me that that was even coming. I was just told to budget it that and not budget the expenditures. The same way, so my original, and I shared this with Dr. Guest, my original budget number was 12 million. So if you take the 2 million for the insurance money and approximately 2 million for the IT expenditures, you would come back to about 12.
Okay, so you and Dr. Guest,
Yeah,
discovered the error.
Yeah, I told.
In the budget.
I told Doc. I had a frank conversation
Okay.
with him because I never was. I'll be frank. I was never comfortable with it.
Okay, so we
yeah.
kind of short on money right now, but we got something on the table. So you're pretty much been handling where the money should be taken from and how to handle the money.
Yes, yes, ma'am. With the
Okay.
knowledge I have, yes, ma'am. With
Okay,
the
so
information I'm giving you, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
My question really, pretty much is gonna be, why are we trying to hire somebody to come and look at our finances if you were able to discover where the problem was? I don't know what somebody else can do at $100 an hour
Okay.
that you haven't done.
And I just also want to note that if you take our adjusted expenditures and subtract out our adjusted budget revenue, that we are operating at about a $6 million deficit. So I did inform the finance team of that as well. So they are working diligently to find
Now,
out where to cut.
what you're going to have to do in 25, 26 is create a budget that is realistic
Yes.
and is tight. But let me tell you that there's even one more concerning issue. These Chromebooks have a refresh in 2 years. The 27-28 school year, we will have to buy new Chromebooks. That's going to be about $6 million. Now, the $6 million cannot possibly be gathered up between now and then. So what what IT does is they build those balances up carefully so that they can make a sizable down payment. They can't make the whole $6 million, and then make quarterly payments. So IT is, well, for 2 more years, IT needs to work to build that balance back up. Now, we've talked to Dr. Bell. Some of the expenses that could help IT, some of the things that Dr. Bell could absorb out of federal programs are some of the Chromebook payments. He may try to budget his federal money, 25, 26, to make some of those Chromebook payments, so IT can save their money so they can make that Chromebook down payment 27, 28. But what I'm saying is you're going to have a tight budget for 25, 26, but you also have a problem in 27, 28 with a $6 million expense and a $2.5 to $3 million down payment on Chromebooks, and somebody's going to have to save enough money to make that down payment.
It's going to have to come out of 2 or 5.
So that is another thing that the business department faces. But now let me say that the budget committee has been working hard, and there's several people that are in this room right now that have come together and know how to do this work. Look at how money's been spent, how it's been budgeted, and where the problem is. And you've got a lot of good people here who know how to manage money if given the chance. But they may have not had their hands free to do that.
I got a question.
Also, can I add about the tax collection rate?
Ma'am?
Can I speak about the tax collection rate?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was also, normally I don't budget that tax collection rate that tight. I wanted to budget it at 96.4, which I just got my reports from Stevens, and that was my fiscal year collection rate was 96.2, and I was instructed to budget it at 97.4. But as I said to you, Dr. Guest, that's kind of a wait and see, because our tax collections we didn't get to that part of the report, but the tax collections are up 10%, and we're collecting for 2 calendar years. So
That is what I meant when I said she was told to budget expenses low and to budget revenue high.
Yeah.
So that's just one example of that.
Okay, so instead of paying for computers, why don't we just go back to smart boards? Because a lot of my teachers are like, they don't like the 1-to-1 ratio. We have TVs in the classroom, but they would be more engaged with the smart boards. A lot of my teachers write on the boards, and that TV is in the way of that. Like my math teacher, her TV is on her board, so we have a limited amount of space to write on the board and do equations on it. And every day we go into class, she's always like, I wish we still had smart boards. She could write on the smart board. She could, if there was an equation that she needed to copy and paste, she could use it on the smart board, and we could just be up there doing that instead of the students being on computers. And then y'all say that you need to budget more instead of renewing the computers. Smart boards would be easier.
Dr. Whitfield and Learning Services may need to explore the question: are we doing the right thing buying kids Chromebooks? You know, I think we are, because I think students today have to master the technology, and if the teachers need more PD and how to help kids use that technology, maybe that's what they need. Smart boards are a great tool, but that's a tool introduced 15 years ago. Technology that we're talking about here is an attempt. Dr. Whitfield, I'm looking for you if you tell me I'm right or wrong. It's an attempt to keep the student body the kind of tools and techniques that you need to know about and learn to use to be a productive student after you leave here, whether you're going to college or a career center.
Thank you so much, because
Absolutely.
that's what we're here for, is to hear, because you're in the classroom. So I respect your opinion on that.
Thank you.
Dr. Whitfield, is there a law that they have to have the Chromebooks?
They have to have them for testing.
Okay.
Well-
Any other, I didn't get through the report, but thank you, Dr. Guest. I know I can go kind of fast sometimes, but do you all have any other questions, about the, report?
I do.
Okay.
So you're saying that our revenue looks like it's gonna be up 10%?
That's what we are now so far, yes, yes.
Okay,
Mhm.
so if that's realized, is that going to increase the legal fund balance?
No, because I budgeted based on the 97.4. So when I made that statement, it was because our collection rate for last fiscal year was 96. I was told to budget it at 97. So I told Dr. Guest we'll probably collect what I budgeted because we are up on.
But we're spending all that money that we're making.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
That's
Which
what
was
we need to figure out.
always
Where's that
happening.
leak?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, but we have looked at, there are a lot of things that we have looked at that, yeah, we're looking at it. There are a lot of things that we're looking at. It's just making sure that people are being paid according to what they're doing. We're going through with the fine tooth comb. Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Rowlett, when we discuss, we're, the closing of the online classrooms,
Mhm.
that savings, is that even still there for next year?
No,
gone?
no, because as Dr. Guest said, when we talked about that in the finance meeting, you're not gonna realize that complete savings, just probably some of it, but not all of it. Because you still have certain expenses for wherever that place was housed and that sort of thing, yes.
Yep.
Any other questions?
Fund 5 is supplied by a millage, correct?
Yes, that's .09
A
million.
specific millage that isn't part of the map, the
Yeah,
major.
and it's for technology, yes. And what happened, we checked to see what was allowable, and we were told to move some stuff.
Generates about 3.1 million.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
It's not even a full mill, it still generates that much.
That mill was passed by the voters in 1993.
Okay.
Okay, and it was part of a millage increase to keep the district in existence, because the voters were told at that time that if we didn't get a millage increase, that we were gonna go out of business and get consolidated. So we've had that on our books because the voters do it. It's not something you see in other districts, but
You're right.
the one catch, I mean, you see dedicated, you can see it in other districts, it shows up as like capital outlay or.
Yeah, that's
or
what,
to-
that's the official name for it, yes, sir.
Well, but for a specific purpose, to maintain their buildings, for example, in other districts. Like you can dedicate a certain amount of your millage, it has to be spent on a certain thing as a district.
It all
if your
depends on
voters
what
approve
the
it.
voters, yes, sir.
And so that's what we have. We have a special millage that's for technology.
Yes.
And the strategy, I believe 1-to-1 was created when you were here, right, Dr. Guest?
That's right.
We started doing Chromebooks
That's right.
I thought, yeah.
when Dr. Guest
A
was
lot of
here.
schools do it, yes, sir.
And so the strategy with respect to Fund 5 was implemented at the time as we would use Fund 5 and our technology money from our millage to give students Chromebooks, right? And then the strategy, because once you give it to them, you have to keep
giving
support
to
it and then keep replacing them, okay? Because they break, they wear out, they get old. And so the strategy was that IT would build up money in this fund, right? And then every 3 years or whatever the replacement cycle was, this fund could get very large, right? If it was immediately, it would build up, but you're going to whack it down when you buy
When you move,
11,000 Chromebooks, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so essentially, it sounds like what happened is we started to support the legal fund balance. We started identifying things to move
That
into
could
the other
legally be
fund.
paid, yes, out of that fund, yes.
For people that are watching and listening, we've thrown around numbers a lot, like Fund 1, or we haven't talked about Fund 1, but 2, 3,
2 is
4,
operating,
5, and 6 and 8 have
Yes.
all been discussed tonight. And so it's a weird universe because we have these funds.
Right.
The scoreboard that most people look at to determine the fiscal health of the district is Funds 1, 2, and 4,
Yes,
right?
sir.
That's and when you hear us say the word legal fund balance, that's another word for Fund 1, 2, and 4.
Right.
And really Fund 2, because that's where most of the money is. And that fund is called the operating fund.
Right.
So when people want to look and say, how healthy is this district? they look at your your legal fund balance, 1, 2, and 4.
Exactly.
It does not include Fund 5.
Right.
Does not include Fund 6. It does not include Fund 8, which is food services.
Right.
Right? And so you can transfer expenses around, right, out of Fund 2 that you would normally pay out of Fund 2 into these others to make your scoreboard look like it has a higher score on it. And it won't show up in the scoreboard that people customarily look at to determine the fiscal health of the district.
Right.
But you have these other things that do important stuff, federal funds, IT, food service, everybody understands that these are important funds. But it seems like what has been said tonight is that our strategy over the past 3 years has been essentially to use these outside funds to support the scoreboard fund, so that the scoreboard looked better than it should have been.
Yes, sir.
That's right.
The other thing, though, is even though you would think that if we're doing all this, the scoreboard should look good, yet every single year except for one, the score has gone down, right?
It has gone down, but I will say it hasn't been significant enough to put us in a fiscal watch
Right.
or fiscal distress.
But, some of them, there was one year, because I've got it here, there was one year where it went down 5.5. Okay, that was early on, like 2020.
Yes.
Then the other years, it would go down 500,000, 1.5, 900. But everything counts.
Right.
But what it also can say, not picking on anybody, but what it can say about the district is that it shouldn't want to deficit spend every year, because eventually you'll get to zero, right?
Exactly.
And so eventually you have to go the other way too.
Exactly.
Every district will deficit spend 1 year or 2 years.
Exactly.
Right? So I asked myself, or I went and looked, I said, what has Little Rock and North Little Rock done over? So from 2019, pre-COVID, because you'll hear stuff people say all the time, right? Like COVID was hard on districts, everybody's going down, we hear about budget cuts all the time in all kinds of districts. But so I just asked myself, well, what happened in Little Rock and North Little Rock? From 2019, pre-COVID to now. In this district, depending on if you take the budget we approved in September, and assume that we would just end there, okay, we'd still be down 30% from 2019, roughly.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay, but if you take this number that we're now budgeting, we would be down 52% from 2019. Sounds about right?
Yeah.
So I looked at Little Rock and North Little Rock, and I said, over the same time, what have they done? Well, Little Rock is down 2% over that same time period, and North Little Rock is up 3%. So if you think there are peer districts or not, or whatever, it didn't have to happen that way to all districts, okay?
I agree.
Sometimes they would deficit spend a little bit, and then sometimes they would go back up. But we've been on a trajectory that has gone down to the level where over that time period, we've lost 52% of the legal fund balance. It was at 23 million in 2019, and now we've told the state this, right? Did you update the state?
Yeah, I've contacted them, yes, about this.
So if we end at 1.3, that will mean from 2019 till now, we've gone down 52% on our scoreboard, right? And that was with all the additional revenue we got from COVID, from the property tax increases, from the foundation funding increases, and with moving stuff into these other funds. So, it's not the end of the world, but at some point, you've got to pull up,
You
okay?
do. I agree
Right?
100%, and you can't spend the money before you get it.
And I went all the way back to 2021, okay, which was the year we went under state takeover, okay?
2021.
Sorry, 2011.
No.
2011.
No.
2011, we went into state takeover, okay, on finances, all right? All right, if we end at 11.3, we won't have had that low of a legal fund balance since before state takeover, okay? So it's not the end of the world, but we've got to get a handle on this, and we've got to be realistic, and I think that's
right.
what I've heard tonight is that 11.3 paints a realistic picture, in your opinion, right?
Yes.
And in your opinion, Dr. Guess,
Yes.
of the current scoreboard of the district.
What we know right now. That's
What we
correct.
know right now, because we find stuff. But yes, what we know right now.
Because some of this, I mentioned like Fund 3, Fund 5, I used Fund 8. We started last year holding student debt off the books, I mean, off the Fund 2. It was being like contained
It
within
was
Fund
on
8.
the balance sheet as revenue. So we just, that's another thing that went into the other expenditure, 600,000, yes. We
Yeah,
decided
so-
to go ahead and pay that.
So even though that may only be, 600,000, 500,000, whatever, all this stuff just sort of adds up when you say, give it to me straight. You have to point out that we're carrying $600,000 of debt we haven't recognized that we used to recognize every year.
Yeah, but yeah.
That's right.
Yes.
So, Dr. Guess, my question is this. Do you believe that the budget we approved in September was a fiscally sound budget?
No.
Do you believe that the number that you're putting forward now, that is a fiscally sound number, that is, I mean, it's a bad number, but it's a realistic fiscally sound number?
I believe that because nucleus of critical people in this central office have worked this out. Ms. Rowlett, chairing the budget committee, but this is the work of 7 or 8 people who understand all of this. And yes, I do believe what we're putting forward right now is a fiscally sound number.
Do you believe that you could find more big things like?
I hope not.
But,
I
I mean,
hope we don't find anything else.
I mean, sometimes, you haven't kicked over all the rocks. I mean,
Yeah.
what, could this go down more based on just new information without any other decisions being made?
I spent hours up here Saturday and I did not find anything else, but the things that we've been finding is things that were approved like right after the budget was submitted, or say for instance, the 99,000 for the metal detectors, that just came through right, it was approved like right after the budget was. So those are the sort of things, or purchase services that were not in the budget, and those sort of things that, and, certain new programs that were implemented that I was not told about, and people calling and they're wanting furniture, and, all of that adds up, and then people being moved around, and you're thinking they're doing one job and they're doing another, and they're getting paid a little bit more because it's not, the information just wasn't funneling through. Does that make sense? So this is what we found. So,
Okay,
yes.
and, all right.
And I try to tell Dr. Guest, I try to get my steps in, and I'll run up there, Dr. Guest, I found this, and he said, okay, I'll send that person a letter, and they're not gonna do this, so we're doing the best we can.
Well, yeah, that's obvious, but thank you. So what would have happened? Can you speculate, like, if we would have just continued on this course, when would we have realized something was actually wrong? Like somebody would have come and said, I don't know if we'd ever come and said, we can't make payroll, but somebody would the first thing that would have hit would have been, we can't buy Chromebooks? Or would we have heard, well, we're gonna keep Chromebooks an extra year?
Well, what would have happened is, if, like Dr. Guest said when we were having the conversation, the refresh was gonna have to come out of 502, no matter if we pushed all those expenditures that we were told to push into this year. Eventually, it was gonna have to come out of somewhere. You keep saying you get an increase in assessments, which we are, but if you keep spending it before you get it and don't get it controlled, after a while, you're just gonna have this big drop in legal fund balance. As I told you all a few months ago when you asked about the bond payment, we can do it, but you don't expect to have a hefty legal fund balance, And you go back to the first year I was here, and you thought you had that $6 million deficit, and then I found it, and I said, no, we don't. And then, but we started giving raises right away, and we just kept padding up. And if you all even go back to the December 23 board meeting, when I was told we were gonna have like $4 million in cuts, and we didn't. So we just gotta be realistic about the budget.
But when would, like, if we would have just kept going on, making the scoreboard look a certain way?
You would have been down.
When would we have run out of runway? Okay, I'm just curious, what would have it looked like?
I would say continually probably about between 9 and 10 million. That's what I say. If we hadn't cut, because we are getting increase in assessments. Like I just got like this year for our assessments for 23 were 3.7. Our assessment for calendar year 24 is going to be 3.9. But at some point you gotta contain and have something in the kitty. that's why I never budgeted over what, I always budget what my calendar year, collection rate was.
You would have
Not-
known,
not
you would have
my
known
fiscal
that there was a hole in the budget when she closed out the fiscal year.
That's right.
And didn't
Thank
have any money in IT or in federal programs that would continue to have supported Fund Two. She
Yeah.
would have closed at something like we're predicting here, $11 million.
Yeah.
See, this is the problem with this way of doing things. It wasn't illegal, okay? There was
it was
nothing,
not.
there was
No.
nothing illegal about
No.
it. That's why when I fussed about
correct.
infractions or whatever. But all the training school boards get and everything is, what's your legal fund balance? What's your legal fund balance?
Yes, sir.
Okay? But what you're telling me here is that we would have had to be keeping track of Fund 5, Fund 6, Fund 8,
Yeah.
you know, and basically managing this entire universe of different funds when.
Welcome to
when-
my world.
Well,
Yes, sir.
well, but
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
your world is different. I mean, you're in the trenches, you know?
Yes, sir.
When
But,
they
but
tell us,
you're exactly right, because as he spoke about Fund 6, because what happened, because Jimmy's, the IT was helping us, then Fund 6 had to help him. So then that left less money for Fund 6 to do something else. And like Dr. Guest said, eventually it was gonna hit us.
but these funds are supposed to be doing their own thing, right? Like,
Yes,
that's
sir.
the thing, right? Like, they're supposed to be
If
on
you-
their own, independent, doing their own cool stuff.
If you create a budget and stick to it in each one of those funds, that'll happen. But that, she's already told you that there were all sorts of unbudgeted expenses thrown into this budget. And there was enough money available to help shore that up by pulling it out of IT. And it helped shore up too. But you've got to create budgets and then you've got to follow them religiously.
But we were eventually gonna run out of funds.
Yeah,
There's
that's
only
right.
8 on the sheet, right?
That's right.
But we have to create budgets based on accurate information.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's right.
And when
Okay.
we would get the budget, when you would bring it to us to present, and we'd see it said 0 in a department, but we could see that the year before it was 4 million, I'm like, how are you gonna cut 4 million? Because
Yeah.
you're not. But it had a 0, and I would just hammer down, cut the fat.
So what, you know, they say like 80-85% of a district's budget's in personnel. And-
Yes.
And almost all, and the reason, and you could say it like, but the thing about this, a school district as opposed to a business is most people in businesses are at-will employees. So if your business realizes this in the middle of the year, they can start doing RIFs immediately. But we have contract employees, and we don't want to do that to our people. And not only that, we can't. So I'm not talking about, you know, breaking anybody's contract, but I'm just pointing out that when you realize this in the middle of the year, it's a very bad thing because your contracts are signed last year. And that's where 85% of your costs is in contracts that are locked, okay?
And that's why Dr. Williams and HR are trying very hard to identify places where we can reduce the staff.
Yeah.
But what, you know, but when you reduce the staff, you're talking about reducing the staff, you
For
know,
next
for
year.
next year.
That's right.
Which would then show up on that scoreboard,
That's
not
right.
this year's scoreboard. What are you doing this year that you could even find to make, because you've recognized things in a way that has caused the scoreboard to get lower. What can you actually do in this fiscal year after this has already been cast?
We talked about that in the last finance meeting, and we don't see anything other than being mindful of the overtime, because the overtime, what the budgeted overtime is gonna go up as well because of the increased pay for the security. So the budgeted overtime is gonna go up as well. So really, we have looked, and right now, no, sir, we cannot find anything that we can cut for this year.
Okay,
We've
so,
already stopped out as like unneeded travel, correct?
Yes, he has.
There's still
been
some
looking-
out-of-state travel
Yes,
going
still,
on,
but
but
he's-
it's selected carefully.
Okay.
And the first thing we ask is what's the source of the funding, and is the trip part of a plan? Darnell Bell is in Washington this week, isn't he? He has to,
He goes next week.
next week, he has to
Is it
go to
next
the
week?
federal meeting.
Next week.
He doesn't have a choice. So
He
things
has to
like
go.
that, we're prioritizing, but we're trying to be very selective about what we do approve.
so in the past, we had heard that the travel, most of it came out of Fund 6, and Fund 6 was like different money, you know, different buckets or whatever. But what we're hearing tonight is that if we're using these other funds to support the operating fund, then is it really separate stuff, right? Because if federal funds was used to support operating, and you're doing out-of-state travel out of federal funds, I know you have to have PD. I know you have to have PD.
Yes, sir.
But the mentality that, or not the mentality, the sort of the guidance that the board got is that's federal money, it's different. That's not like operating money. But if we're using the federal funds to support the operating fund, is there really that much of a distinction?
Yes, because it's real restrict, like you say, it wasn't, anything illegal. And we do want to use our federal funds to protect it, but we want to do it the right way. Like what Dr. Guest was referencing, if we're using Fund 5 to support operating, and then we got to pick up something from 6 to support 5, then we're losing.
Yeah,
those are
right,
fun.
exactly.
Yeah,
Which then, because it was almost like when we would hear complaints about travel, it would be like, well, that's Fund 6, that's off the table as a consideration. But if we're using, like you said, Fund 6 to support Fund 3, and both funds are supporting operating, then is it really off the table?
And you want to make sure it's value added, Fund 6.
My last question. So, we heard a little bit about this tonight, but just like if we're not juking the numbers to make it look worse, right?
No, sir. No, sir. No.
Because if you can juke the numbers to, make it look good, you can make it look bad.
No, sir,
Okay?
I don't
Is
juke.
that tell.
No, so we're not, all of these numbers come straight out of our financial system.
Could you make it look worse than this if you wanted to, if you really applied yourself?
You can make a pencil do
I know,
anything,
but
yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, well, not me, because I'm pulling what's in my system. But if I was just creating a spreadsheet without getting the numbers out of eFinance, sure I could. But these numbers are right in eFinance. Well, let me say this, except for the stuff I haven't moved Jimmy's stuff back.
Yeah.
But other than that, yes.
Well, I just don't want there to be, I want it to be clear that you
No,
are
we're
both
not
telling
doing
us
the
these are realistic numbers. They're not being done for ulterior motives
No.
to show anything other than what is a
No, sir.
realistic picture of the financial health of the district on March 11th and what our projection is to end the year.
Yes. As I told you all earlier, that was the first thing I talked to Dr. Guest about, because I was not comfortable with that budget ever. My original numbers were between, and a budget is a projection based on the information you have. My original number was going to be between 10 and 12. And some people who were on the original finance committee can vouch for that. But I'm not doing the numbers.
Okay.
I appreciate all your work.
Thank you. Any other questions?
See if we can get you a raise.
I like you, girl. Okay, any other questions? Okay.
Okay. Dr. Guest, did you have anything else? I've got a
No,
superintendent's
I'm
report on
good.
here.
No.
Okay. All right. Okay, that gets us through reports. Let's go to approval of last meeting's minutes. I'll take a motion on February 11th.
Motion.
Ms. Ward has approved the minutes moved to approve the minutes for February 11th. Is there a second? Dr. Tate has seconded. Discussion? Okay, I'll put it to a vote. All in favor of approving February 11th, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. I'll take a motion on February 17th.
Motion.
Ms. Ward has moved to approve February 17th minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
Dr. Tate has seconded. Discussion? Okay, I'll put it to a vote. All in favor of approving February 17th minutes, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. All right, that brings us down to our first item of old business, which is the proposal to send to classified PPC on the CFO pay. If you'll recall, we had a frozen CFO position that we unfroze 2 meetings ago, maybe? I don't remember. Maybe it was a meeting ago. Either way. But it unfroze at 21. The original posting, Dr. McNulty intended in December to propose unfreezing the CFO position. So this wasn't an original idea that Dr. Guest only had. Dr. McNulty had intended to run that on the December agenda, but I asked it to be held over because the sheet that he gave me the job duty sheet had it at 25 or 24, I can't remember, I can pull it up. But I went back and researched, and that position went in frozen at 21. So, when Dr. Guest brought it back in January or February to unfreeze it, and I said this at the meeting, it needs to come back unfrozen at 21. You don't get to unfreeze it at a higher pay level without going through the PPC process. So I told him if he wanted that, he needed to either go talk to PPC or make a separate proposal to the board. And now here we are.
So that's what this is a proposal that the board adopts the position that the range should be at 25. If you adopt it and send it to PPC, then the certified classified PPC has a certain number of days to meet and consider that, and then it can come back before you for your action.
So what that means is it's another one of those vote once, wait, and then vote again deals.
That's right.
So, but you're not obligated to support it the first time or the second time. So,
What's the difference in salary?
like $10,000?
About 130, yeah, about $10,000.
I'll pull it up. But I think it's like well, remember, it depends on your experience, right? Like if it's gonna depend, so this is, because you get put on the salary schedule at your years of experience, but, if you assume maximum experience for where it is now and where it is proposed to go, that number would be, a second. I'll get back to you on that, just if you have other questions.
It goes to 148.
Okay, so it goes to 148.
I
But
might
where it
think
is,
137.
but where it is now is what?
There's Dr. Williams. I couldn't find you.
So at 21, the bottom at 21 would be $98,649.20. The top would be $137,284.16. The bottom for range 25 would be $109,468.16. The top would be $148,103.12.
So on either side of that, it's about $11,000 difference. Okay, so the basis for this proposal is what, Dr. Guest?
To adopt this proposal to move it to a 25 and send it to the classified
No.
PPC
What's the reasoning?
to attract the most qualified person that we can find for the job.
Also, there's an adjustment in the supervisory duties.
Oh, well, yeah, that's a completely different,
There were some changes to the job description.
okay.
Why?
Well, it was going back into part of what the previous position was. And so we will look back at the previous position that was a CFO position that was slightly different.
That would report to who?
The CFO would report to the superintendent.
Oh, okay,
As you know. they do
okay.
now. Yes.
And that's what we suggesting, that this position will report to the superintendent,
Yes, ma'am.
or the interim
Yes.
superintendent.
Well, it would be hopefully the permanent superintendent, because this would not start until the next school year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We'll have some money by then.
Dr. Williams, since you referenced the job duties, when you say the job duties were changed between when it was frozen and when it was not frozen?
Right. The one that was presented in December had the adjustments on it.
Let's say 2020. From where it went frozen in 2020
Yes.
to where it went now. The one you said December?
Well, we were presenting it for December.
Yeah.
You asked us to hold it.
Yeah.
And then we went through January, you unfroze the previous one.
But between December and January, did anything change?
No.
Okay.
Well, there was a change of some language that had to be removed, but as far as the duties,
Okay,
no.
but, okay, so, but the change, but what you were gonna run on the, what was gonna be run on the agenda in December, we were gonna try to do it at 25, right?
Yes,
And then,
sir.
and then, so we've split those off now.
Yes.
But in terms of the job duties between the treasurer and the CFO, those are different, right?
Yes.
They're very different in
Yes,
terms,
they're
because, and we talked about this when we unfroze it. We kind of talked about the job, because we had the job sheet in front of us, and the CFO has a whole lot of management stuff in those job duties, whereas the treasurer, the word manage is only in there one time. So these are different positions,
Yes, sir.
right?
Yes,
They have a lot more management authority.
yes.
Okay, so, Dr. Guess, I asked you the basis, the reasoning for this is that this is where, in your opinion, the position should be to attract a good pool of candidates, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Okay. So you're gonna see this twice. That doesn't mean you have to approve it on the first go-around, but it's a proposal that goes to the classified PPC, and then they sit on it and review it for 10 days at least, probably longer. So is there a motion to propose the CFO range change 25 to the classified PPC?
Motion to propose to send it to PPC.
Okay, range 25 for the CFO to PPC. Is there a second?
Sorry.
I've got a motion, and if it's going to PPC, it's gotta have a second.
Second.
Okay, all
I'm
right,
sorry.
there we go.
I didn't know where we were in that loop.
Yeah. So the motion is to increase the CFO to range 25 and propose it to the classified PPC. So I have a motion with Tate and a second with Smith. Discussion. Okay. This will come back if it's approved. If it's proposed, it will come back. All in favor of proposing the range 25 change to PPC, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
I think that's 452. Where were you, Ms. Potter? I couldn't hear you. You were yay or nay? So, no, Keller, no, Ward,
I'm a
everyone
no.
else yes? What?
I'm a no.
Okay, okay, there's where the third no was, okay. So Maynard, no also. So that's 4-3, proposed, okay. That will come back. Okay, just a second.
Can we have a bathroom break?
Yeah, let's take a 5-minute break, which always ends up being 15. But Dr. Tate's gonna whack the gavel. We'll be back. Okay, are we back? We up? Okay. All right, let's get through the rest of the agenda and go home. So our next item is the ethics resolution and contract with Rita Guess. I think this is something that everybody can understand and know whether or not they want to do it or not, but I'm going to run through the packet that's on the board agenda. So you don't need to board approval to bring a consultant in as long as it's under a certain amount of money that's spent for the entire year. However, you do need approval under certain circumstances to bring a consultant in when they're related to the superintendent or a board member. And in this case, the consultant is Rita Guess, who is married to Dr. Guess, who is, and so that is governed by an entire set of ethics rules and laws that require state approval. So what you have in your packet is, on the first page, is a one-pager resolution, which is everything that the state needs to consider the request. So it wasn't put there. Those are answers that were given that Dr. Guess and I looked at and agree with. But the board would approve this resolution, but they need to go on a sheet to the state. So everything in there is related to what the state would want to know to approve this. It also needs board approval to send it to the state. So everything in there is factual, but it needs to be approved if we want to do it and send it to the state. What you have on the second page is the underlying contract that if the board approves would be the contract that Rita Guess would have. Specifically note, it's $100 an hour inclusive of any expenses. It runs through June 30th, 2025. And the other conditions are probably the most relevant part of this, is that it limits what she is able to do with respect to things such as transferring money. She cannot transfer money. She can receive information, but she cannot direct or supervise staff under this contract, and she would receive only the minimum level of access necessary to perform whatever it is that Dr. Guess directs her to do. Or Dr. Warren. Okay, back up. Can you explain? Dr. Warren is over the business office now. Is that why that's the case? You have assigned Dr. Warren to be over the business office?
To oversee the business office, that's right.
Okay, all right. I don't know if the board was aware of that.
I'd rather say I asked her.
Okay.
I don't want to press my luck.
Okay. Well, so she will report to Dr. Warren, right? Is what you will have here. Okay. So, and she cannot direct or supervise staff. That would be Dr. Warren that would do that, or you, right? She would receive the minimum level of access necessary to do whatever it is you and Dr. Warren ask her to do. And the contract can be terminated at any time for any reason. So that's the second page, the purchase service contract, that where we would give that to the state with those limited conditions. The third page is Ms. Guess's work experience. She's been a CFO, business manager, chief financial officer since 1984. About 13 of those years were spent as Dr. Guess's business manager and CFO in Camden. So you two have worked in an arrangement where she was in finances and you were the superintendent in the past.
That's right.
There were no, ethics findings or anything during that time, right, Dr. Guess?
Correct.
There was no improprieties during that time.
Correct.
I went back and looked at legislative audits during that time, and that matches what I found. So that's her work history and experience for doing this. The reason I pulled it down last month is because, like I said, I'd gotten some questions about what is the basis for the rate. Why is $100 a reasonable rate? So I pulled it down and I asked Dr. Guest to go solicit all these places and give documentation to show what they're charging. And that is contained in a table here. Norman Hill, Zena Clanton, and Rita Guest all charge $100. You can get the same services from AAEA and ASBA for $150. And that, each one of those is like a table with an exhibit on it. So that's the documentation supporting the rate. So that's why I didn't run it last month. I pulled it. And then the last page is a letter from Mr. Beckett. He's not advocating either, to yes or no. He's explaining the process and what you have to do, which is what this would be. You have to first get board approval, fill out the paperwork using the resolution that the board approved, if the board approves it, and then send all that to the state. And the state commissioner has 21 days to review and say yes or no. And if they say no, then it doesn't happen. So this engagement would be very limited based off of the terms of the contract. State approval is required, and they will review what we send them and ask any questions that they have, and then make a decision. By policy, she can only bill up to $24,800 because there hasn't been a competitive bidding process, this is policy, is that you can spend up to $24,800 without a competitive bidding process. He could bring in one of these other consultants right now that was on the table and not get board approval for that by policy, because the board has authorized the superintendent to bring in people. So he could bring in Norman Hill or any of the others at $100 an hour, and this wouldn't even come to the board. $24,000 at $100 an hour works out to around 248 hours, which sounds like a lot, and it is, but if she worked 40 hours a week, which she may not, that's only 6.5 weeks worth of work. So it will hit that limit, and then that will be the end of it, because there's been no competitive bidding process. This follows the policy that allows up to $24,800. By state and district ethics rules, this is okay. But it may not fit your personal ethics rules. So you can, that's fine. If the board doesn't want to do it, we won't. The state process is that we would vote to approve the resolution tonight. If we approve it, then I would take the resolution and fill out the paperwork, send it to the state, then wait to hear back. Dr. Guest, can you or Dr. Warren, either one, explain what you would ask Rita Guest to do?
Let me let Dr. Warren do that, because she and I have talked about this, and she's eager to have someone come in and work with her. She's got some questions, so I'm going to let Dr. Warren take that lead.
I can see the excitement on her face.
Can you tell I'm excited?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the additional duties that I've been given last month or so, that I'm directly supervising the business office. But I do believe
this board does
that,
have a history of being overly concerned about quality of life.
I know.
So how has your quality of life suffered?
Let me
with the
say
additional-
this to you. Nothing supersedes my time with Amaya Warren or Olivia Warren. So that's all you need to know. Those are my granddaughters, by the way. Yeah, absolutely. And when there's something going on at Conway High School, Grandma's headed that way. When there's something going on at Conway Middle School, like it will be tomorrow at 1 o'clock, Grandma will be there. So I hope that answered your question. But as far as financial audit, you've heard all that you've heard tonight. In my experience, I've never experienced the kind of finances that have occurred in PCSSD. I'm very uncomfortable. I'm very, very uncomfortable. I have been working with Ms. Rolette and Ms. Bryant since I have been in charge of the business office. I just think there needs to be, whether it's Rita Guest or whomever it may be, there needs to be another set of outside eyes that comes in and look at our practices and make sure that we are doing what we are supposed to be doing when we should be doing. So I highly recommend that the board accepts this because it is much needed.
But we
Question?
broke.
You could be
We just
broker.
said we broke.
You could be broker.
I feel that to my core right
We could be broker?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay.
And don't
She ain't gonna
let
make
the
more than
English
25,000
teacher
total.
correct that.
No.
Yeah. But it's very concerning, very concerning.
But Ms.
Now tell me it's not concerning to you when you heard in November, December of $16 million ending balance, and you hear tonight, what'd she say, 11, 10?
11.1.
Is that not concerning? Okay.
Okay, you doing your job?
Well, but, Dr. Warren, you are in the business office, you've been inside of this central office, we are not every day.
Yes.
You have, how long have you been assigned to help with the business office?
A week after he got here.
Okay, so it's been.
So
it's been
whatever
2
that
months.
date was.
So,
Uh-huh.
2 months.
Okay.
And you see the need for outside eyes because you've never.
Yes, sir.
I want to
Definitely.
I want to be even more specific. You said you've never seen anything like this before.
Financially.
But you in CrossFit came into a situation where you experienced fiscal distress in CrossFit, right?
Yes, I most definitely did.
And you're saying that even in that situation, it wasn't like what you've seen here.
When she left,
And
she
Cro-
left a big balance too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, right.
And
I know you
CrossFit,
inherited that
when I
fiscal.
became superintendent,
Yeah.
6 months after, we were declared fiscal distress. But in 2 years, we were out of fiscal distress. Record number, by the way. And that was because we put a financial management plan in place.
Okay, so you have, I guess what I was saying, what I was giving context here, when you say you haven't seen before, you had not seen it before, you've seen districts in fiscal distress because you inherited one that was
I
there.
did. I did.
And so I guess that's meaningful to me because
Thank you.
I just wanted to make sure
Thank
everybody else
But-
understood that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know, she got good, yeah, I understand that. But it's so ironic to me that when she's standing there and she has all this experience, and you know she has all this experience, instead of bringing in somebody and paying them, why didn't you put all that credit into her and let her be the interim?
I'm very comfortable
Okay.
in what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, I'm sure you are, but
Here.
I'm asking them the question since he's talking, got you all filled up right now, and you have so much faith. Y'all play this game, because when somebody's trying to, be an interim superintendent of this color, then, no, you don't want that, you don't want, but you blowing air tonight. She got all these accolades, but when it comes down to choosing somebody of her color or somebody like her as a superintendent, no, you don't want that.
Well, you
So
wouldn't
I-
know,
I- I'm
you wouldn't
just- I'm
know
just-
why we did it because you weren't in the meeting.
Say what now?
You weren't there to discuss any of it.
Yeah, 'cause y'all like to hear yourself talk.
No, you were putting on your eyelashes and then you left.
Oh, wait a minute now, hold up, back up, 'cause you probably was putting on your hood, so just hold up, okay? Back up with that. Now, what you ain't gonna do, I ain't gonna do Jasmine Crockett, let me sit down.
Okay.
Sure, right, I was putting on my eyelashes.
But Mr. Delaney, to respond to your answer, yes, I've had plenty of experiences in school district financial management. And I was explaining to Ms. Rolette, in a school district, the two most critical positions are that of the superintendent and the business manager, CFO, whatever that title might be in the district. Those two positions have to work hand in hand.
And
Dr. Warren, you're not saying that you don't have full confidence in the two ladies that run the department now. You're saying they need a backup
I'm
Not an
saying we
overseer,
need-
but a
I'm saying- No, no.
Not an
no,
overseer.
No,
They just need
I-
some
No, I'm
big,
not saying
big-
anything about another overseer.
Yeah.
I need another
So
set
it's
of
not
eyes.
it's not a negative on what we've had, because that wasn't in their control, what was going on. They were being told what to do, and this is to assist them, right?
Absolutely.
That's right. So love you ladies. Just want y'all to know.
Anybody who's ever looked for their husband's keys or wallet knows that sometimes fresh eyes are a good thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's-
Right there in front of them.
That is what I'm asking for.
Okay. So, first of all, this contract, it says they would report to Dr. Guest, but they need to report to you. That's gonna be the,
If you decide on Rita Guest.
yes,
That
right.
she cannot report to Dr. Guest.
Okay, well, okay, so that would be, so the board understands, that would be the
Right.
understanding here.
Okay.
All right, other questions for Dr. Warren?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other discussion on this? Okay, it's the board's pleasure. What would the board like to do?
I make a motion, we approve the contract.
Well, it's a resolution. I need the resolution approved.
I make a motion, approve the resolution.
Okay, all right. All right, Ms. Maynard has made a motion. Dr. Tate has seconded to approve the resolution and the underlying contract to send to the state. Further discussion? Okay. I'll put it to a vote. All in favor of approving the Rita Guest resolution and contract, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
Okay, I have that. Ms. Ward and Mr. Keller as no, and the other as yes. 5-2, okay. All right. That brings us down to our next item, which is new business. Robinson Elementary Cafeteria Heating, Air, Ventilation. Mr. Farmer. Well, Mr. Johnson.
Board, please forgive Tommy's absence, or Mr. Farmer's absence from being here. Had a medical emergency with his father and couldn't be here. The documentation that you guys have before you is for the replacement of 2 HVAC units at Robinson Elementary. And they're much needed because the ones that are on the building are the original equipment that needs to be replaced. So I'm requesting to replace those units.
Okay, Dr. Tate has made a motion to approve the replacement of the units. Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Maynard has seconded. It's on the agenda. What fund is it coming out of?
Fund 3, sir.
Okay, all right. All right. Motion and a second on the cafeteria heating and air. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, 7-0. Next, we have Board Policy 7.21P1. Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Bringing before you 7.21, the facilities planning policy. It is being requested to be repealed. It was developed during desegregation, and we are no longer under that in that area.
Okay. Questions? Dr. Tate's made a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Maynard is seconded. Last discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Dr. Williams, you have another one?
4.59, it's being revised to strike references to desegregation in the policy.
Okay.
Motion.
Ms. Maynard has made a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Smith has seconded. 4.59P. Discussion, questions?
Next.
Okay, I'll put it to a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Next, we have Dr. Williams again, ADE State Educational Cybersecurity Policy.
That one is to propose to the board to approve a state mandated cybersecurity policy, and because it, again, is state and federal, it falls under state and federal laws. So, you have accompanying documentation for that. It is one that is not, open to the public.
Okay, what do we decide on the policy? Is it confidential?
Yes.
Okay, so, okay. You have that on your agenda board, it was not released publicly?
Yeah, well, the document that you had was not the wording of the policy, except it's an overview of the policy and what
Okay.
the state requires. It was requested that I put confidential on the document from someone. so
Me?
Yes.
Because I was under the understanding that it was
No.
confidential.
Well, the policy is confidential. This was just an overview because there was a request to add some.
Has the board seen a confidential document truly, or is there some other document somewhere else that we haven't seen?
There is a policy that you haven't seen.
There's a
The
document.
actual document.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're approving it sight unseen then, right? Okay, all right.
And it's the same across the
Okay,
state.
okay, all right. Okay, motion, anybody?
Motion.
Dr. Tate's made a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Ms. Maynard is seconded, discussion? Okay, put it to a vote, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay. Next, we have, well, that's it for Dr. Williams. Next, we have Mills University Studies High Life Skills Classroom renovation.
Good evening.
I'm here today to request approval to request state funding to renovate Mills High School Life Skills Classroom.
Okay. You had the justification on the agenda. Any questions for Ms. Cole?
I guess I'm confused. Didn't we just rebuild Mills High School? Wasn't that considered before we rebuilt it?
I'm not for sure about the desegregation requirements.
But it's a new problem, right? Like it's addressing a problem that's recent.
It's a problem with the Life Skills Classroom, needs to be expanded, the space.
Okay,
It's a very narrow space for wheelchairs and adults.
okay. Take a motion?
Johnson, did you want to tell us something about it?
Yeah, no, I wanted to help just with the question that you posed. In the original drawings of the building, the drawings were changed to give a smaller footprint, and it reduced the items that were necessary and needed for her programming at that time frame. This proposal takes it back to the original specs of what it was supposed to be, and the funding of it is coming from the state opposed to it coming out of any district fund. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Need a motion and a second?
Motion to approve.
Okay, Mr. Keller's made a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Maynard has seconded the Life Skills Classroom. All in favor of approving the renovation in Mills for the Life Skills Classroom, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. There you go, Ms. Cole. All right, that brings us down to our consent agenda. I'll take a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay, Ms. Smith's made a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Dr. Tate is seconded. Discussion? All in favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. That,
May I introduce Ms. Isaac?
oh, yes, go ahead.
Dr. Williams, do you want to introduce Ms. Isaac, or do you want me to? Ms. Isaac, would you please stand? You're welcome to come up here if you'd like to, or you can, come on up. This is Ms. LaConya Isaac. She has been in Pulaski County Special School District all of your education career, isn't that correct?
Yes, sir, 24 years.
She's been a 15-year classroom teacher, taught Spanish?
Yes, sir.
Spanish, that's what I thought. She was assistant principal at North Pulaski. Oh, okay.
Maumelle High School.
Maumelle High School, but I thought you were at North Pulaski too.
I was, teaching
You got-
Spanish.
You were as an assistant principal or teacher?
Teaching Spanish.
Teacher, okay,
Yes,
okay.
sir.
She's had 7 years as an assistant principal in a secondary school. She's in her second year as principal, third year.
Oh.
As well, it's all right. It's going up
It's
every
late,
time.
it's okay.
I know it. This is her third year as principal in Sylvan Hills Elementary.
Sherwood.
Sherwood! I knew it all, but it's been late.
It's
Sherwood.
late.
Okay, it's her third year though.
Yes.
And she is the recommendation and now the approved principal at Robinson High School.
Yes.
Oh, congratulations.
We will miss you in Sherwood.
Yes, ma'am.
That's the best recommendation you could get. They will miss you in Sherwood. Isn't that wonderful?
And if I may, she is more affectionately known as Queen Bee.
Yes.
Welcome for all of my mistakes. Thank you for being
It's
here.
okay, and I appreciate the opportunity to serve the community, staff, as well as the students in Robinson, as well as continue to serve PCSSD.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay.
Now,
You went through the entire circuit of schools.
I know.
That brings us down to board member comments.
I had a great visit at Sylvan Hills Elementary, so the real Sylvan Hills with Miss Hickman. I had a team of 5 fifth graders that took me through the building and showed me all the awesome stuff that they're doing, including a podcast that they have started doing. And I think Miss Steph, her department has set up a YouTube channel, so y'all be on the lookout for that because they're going to continue doing podcasts. These are all fifth graders. I mean, it was very inspirational, and I appreciate them taking the time to escort me through the building.
Congratulations to Maumelle High. They're playing Benton on Friday night for, is it the 5A championship?
5A, I think, yeah.
5A championship. So congratulations, Hornets.
Absolutely.
Well, if we're gonna do accolades of athletes, so Robinson had a swim team for the first time this year, and they won the state championship.
Hey.
All right.
Let me start off my announcements with the sad news of a student at Mills. It was with great sadness that we share the passing of one of our own, Karen Correas, a freshman at Mills University Studies High, passed away on Saturday, March the 8th. She was less than 2 weeks from turning 15. Our thoughts and prayers are with Karen and her family during this difficult time. So I wanted to give acknowledgement to, as far as what happened at Mills, as far as losing one of their students. And then on a good note, that Mills will be playing in the 4A semifinals on Friday. So hooray to Mills. As some of you all know, that I'm doing double duty because that's just what I signed up for, as far as with the quorum court. So some Tuesdays, I have to run from the quorum court to get here. And I know that's my business. But I was able to look online and see that we have gotten to the point where we celebrate and acknowledge. Not once has this board said anything about addressing what Ms. Potter did. And, yeah, you can pack your bags, baby. Yeah, we celebrate. Yeah, that's what we do now. We celebrate when somebody do something unethical. That's okay, that's what you did then. But y'all get behind the keyboard and y'all get real tough. However, I'll say it so she can hear it, and her other counterpart. Because Ms. Shay Rafferty sent an email. The only reason why she wasn't here was because she was sick. I love it. I love it. Anybody else want to leave? But I just want to, I see that we have gotten to the point, but it trickles down because it's starting at the top now. So it trickles down, the disrespect and the acknowledgement of, we do what we want to do, we say what we want to do, and we get in these positions that's supposed to be caring for all children. That's the sad part about it. You take these seats as some little political seats to take some, make political statements instead of wanting to serve all children. I did go and had the pleasure of reading to Oak Grove Elementary School. They didn't know what a school board member was. No, that's not my zone, but the kids belong to all of us, well, supposedly. And I did enjoy that time with them and reading with them, and I would suggest, as board members, you should be a little bit more active and concerned about the children, all the children in this district. That's if you're here for the district. And we're sitting here, we want a penny pinch on what money affairs that we want to control the budget of the district, like you want to control it for your own house, instead of having empathy for the fact that we got classified staff. That is, I mean, it broke my heart to see her in tears that these people are willing to come to work every day, but to come here and feel like they're less than any other employee. The president of the, what is she, the president of the classified. She was in tears explaining to me that because she valued her position as being their representative, but she's steady coming here and saying, what are we going to do? What are y'all going to do about our classified staff? But we blow that off. We're concerned with giving more money to positions that nobody's even in yet. We're okay with that. I don't expect no more of you. I really don't. Because I see, we talked to the people that we hired, that y'all hired to find us a superintendent. But we still got the steering wheel. We still telling him what to do. We don't like what you come back with. Hey, you better make sure our person is interviewed. I don't understand. I don't understand. I know we supposed to forgive and forget. Now we have an interim superintendent that can find every flaw in the last superintendent, but didn't find none when he was in office. I'm concerned about our people as a whole, all of our people, classified, everybody. Thank you.
It was really nice to go to the softball game. That had been a project that really, you know, there's lots of construction that needs to be done in this district, and it's hard to tell people, wait, or that's coming, or whatever, but construction is complicated, but it does feel fulfilling when you tell that to somebody and you work with them and you help them understand the process and everything, like the softball group at Mills, because it was very hard to explain why you don't have a softball field. But there's a baseball field here, there's softball fields at the other place. But eventually this district will get it right. I do believe that, and I felt that night when I was at their first home game, because they were nomads. They had to play on Landmarks Field, or they had to play at Burns Park, and they couldn't fundraise or do anything. And it just, Mr. Johnson was absolutely right about that environment that night. It was electric, and they had a first-class softball field to play on, and that was a first-class team. and they won, and it was amazing. And so it felt great to be there and see that go from where there was no budget or approval or anything, and all the way through to you won your first home game. And that was fantastic.
I've debated the last couple meetings on whether or not to speak on this, and I feel like I gotta say something to Tina, and that is, you don't need anybody standing up for you because you do a fantastic job of standing up for yourself, and you don't need me to sit over here and validate you in any way, shape, or form, but it has been an honor that you always speak your truth. You speak it in public. You don't do it behind closed doors. You do it based off of emotion and not some premeditated agenda. And it's kind of sickens me to watch people roll their eyes or smirk when you're speaking. But thank you for always being a voice and being truthful and honest and just raw emotion, and that's rare. And even though people don't like being called out, it's okay to call people out when you see things wrong. And you've always been able to admit when you're wrong, and clearly there's people that can't. When a simple sorry would suffice, but instead people double down and act the same, if not worse, and try to justify, just say you're sorry. And so I'm sorry I haven't spoken up for you sooner, although I don't feel like I need to because you do a great job of doing it yourself. And I'm just going to say you're a strong, proud, intelligent woman. And so thank you. It's been and go Comets and Hornets.
All right, thank you. Dr. Guess?
None for me.
You good?
2 basketball games I wanted to be sure you all knew about. You mentioned it.
Okay. All right, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Dr. Tate has made a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Keller has seconded. All in favor of adjourning, say aye. Aye. Opposed?